This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to say a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our God and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the most holy, all wise, all knowing, all powerful, all seeing, all hearing, all understanding God. Father God, it is in the name of Jesus that we come before you again. We come before you, Father God, to handle these affairs of the city. But Lord God, we ask you first of all to forgive us of all our sins, to make us worthy to be able to stand before you. We ask you now, Father God, that you would direct our hearts to this agenda. But most of all, Father God, we pray that you would use each and every one of us in your own special way. We pray, Father God, for the comprehensive plan that is before us and will be coming before us. Not only that, Father God, we pray for, thank you so much for all the infrastructure that you got going on around us. We thank you, Father God, for being that great God. And we ask you now, Father God, that you will take and move on the hearts of this mayor, this board, and Lord, these department heads that have so much work to do before us. We know that you are the God that said you'll never leave us, nor would you forsake us. But we thank you so much for what you already have done. But most of all, God, we thank you for the things that we see that you're going to do for us. We thank you, we praise you, we honor you, we glorify you, we magnify you because of who you are and where you are. We thank you for being a God that said you'll never leave us, nor would forsake us. Father God, it's in Jesus' name that we give all praise and honor and glory to you because of who you are and where you are. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, you have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Any proposed changes? Any proposed changes? Seeing none, a motion to adopt the agenda as written is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to adopt the agenda as written. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we will be taking all votes by roll call this evening per state law, since Alderman Maynard is joining us telephonically. Please answer yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The first matter that you have before you is a consideration of the May 3rd, 2016 minutes of the Mayor Board of Aldermen.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the minutes of the May 3rd, 2016 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes as recommended by the City Attorney, otherwise as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
All right, the City Attorney is asked to be recognized.
Ms. City Clerk, I just wanted to drill down on one issue in the minutes, and it relates to the public hearing for Mississippi Code Section 21-1911. During that meeting of May 3rd, I handed you various documents that proved notice to anybody that would want to appear at the public hearing, and those items aren't enumerated or attached to the minutes. Do you still have those items, and will you be attaching those items to the set of minutes when it's recorded in the minute books of the City of Starkville?
Yes, sir, I did. And I have copies of it.
They're right here? Okay. Let me look at these real quick. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is announcements and comments, and I have several announcements this evening before I get to the introduction of our new city employees. First of all, I'd like to announce that on Saturday, June 11th, 2016, the Golden Triangle landfill, that is the landfill just west of 45 alternate on Old West Point Road, the regional landfill, will be accepting hazardous household waste, not hazardous business waste, but if you have household items including but not limited to aerosols, batteries, paint, household cleaners, chlorine, wood finish, automobile fluids, herbicides, rodent poison, oil filters, pesticides, electronic waste, and lighter fluid. The Golden Triangle Regional Landfill will be accepting those items on Saturday, June 11, 2016, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And next, I would like to welcome our summer youth workers for this summer. We have 20 youth workers that will be joining us in various departments of the city this summer with a summer job through a program that is funded by a grant from the Department of Transportation, which is matched at 20% by the city, and the program is administered by the Golden Triangle Planning and Development District. In addition to working for the city, these young people will get job training and have an opportunity, hopefully not only to gain experience working for their city and contributing to the place where they live, but also polishing their skills for future employment opportunities. If you are with the Youth Summer Work Program, could you please stand at this time and be recognized? All right, and now I have the honor of announcing and recognizing Mr. Peters, the Director of Parks and Recreation, for the city's 6th recognition by the Kaboom organization as a Playful City USA. This is considered the premier Parks and Recreation national designation that a city can obtain. And Mr. Peters and his staff work very, very hard every year to ensure that we continue to be recognized as a Playful City USA. And we are one of just a few communities throughout the Southeast and throughout the nation that's now been recognized 6 times. So Mr. Peters, excellent job by you and your staff. And I understand this year one of the requirements was to submit a video. Do we have that video, Mr. Peters? I'd like to show the video we submitted.
Sometimes she's here, can take a break.
Excellent job. Mr. Peters, could you please stand and be recognized? All right. I would now like to introduce our newest employees with the City of Starkville. And first, I'd like to introduce our new systems engineer for the Starkville Utilities Department Water Division. Alex Davis grew up in Indianola, Mississippi, but later moved to Pass Christian, where he graduated from Hancock High School. He received his civil engineering degree from Mississippi State University. Prior to joining the City of Starkville, Alex was an intern with Neil Schaefer in Biloxi and was a co-op student with Mississippi Power in Meridian. Alex is the son of Richard and April Davis and has two brothers, Grant and Luke. Alex enjoys watching and attending sporting events, playing golf, hunting, and spending time with his wife Laura and their two dogs, Sophie and Daisy. Alex and Laura are currently looking for a church in the City of Starkville. Please join me in welcoming Alex. Next, we have two new firefighters that I'd like to introduce this evening. First, I'd like to introduce Ken Britt. Ken is from West Point and is a graduate of West Point High School. He graduated from East Mississippi Community College, where he majored in teaching and coaching. He formerly worked for Southern Services. Ken is the son of Bobby and Brenda Britt and has two brothers, Kevin and Corey. Ken is the proud father of one daughter, Sarah Catherine Britt. During his free time, Ken enjoys watching and playing sports, working out, playing golf, and spending time with his family and Boston Terrier Buster. Ken attends First Baptist Church. Please join me in welcoming Ken. Next, I'd like to introduce Tyler Davis. Tyler is from Conroe, Texas, and is a graduate of Conroe High School. He received his degree in philosophy from Mississippi State University. Before joining the City of Starkville, Tyler worked for Service Masters as a restoration technician. Tyler is the son of Mike and Linda Davis and has one daughter, Brooke. Tyler enjoys sports, hunting, camping, reading, theology, and spending time with his wife, Mary Page Davis, and their dog, Chester. Tyler and his family attend Redeemer Church in Starkville. Please join me in welcoming Tyler. And finally, I'd like to introduce our newest police officer. John Michael Lay is originally from Smithville, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Smithville High School. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Delta State University. Previously, John Michael worked for the Monroe County Sheriff's Department as a criminal investigator. John Michael and his wife Amanda are the proud parents of daughter Jillian. When time permits, he enjoys watching college sports. John Michael and his family are members of Smithville Baptist Church. Please join me in welcoming John Michael. And that concludes my announcements and comments this evening. Are there any announcements and comments from the members of the board? Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you so much. Mayor, we've been away for 2 weeks, and board members, I just need just a few minutes. If you will, Mr. Herman Peters, will you please come to the front? Mr. Sanders, will you please come to the front also and stand until I'm done with Mr. Peters? Mr. Peters, thank you for all that it is that you and your staff do to make our city look good as it relates to parks and recreation. But I want the board members to be aware of something, and I know that their schedules didn't permit with baseball and all of that going on Saturday. But the first annual Devin Mitchell Day was held at the park at the Sportsplex on Saturday. I want to say thank you so much for going out of your way to make sure that Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell's Devin Day was a huge success. She shared that with me on Saturday. I was there for a very long time until it got so hot and I had to leave. I just want to say thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor,
Alderman
members of...
Nguyen, if you're about to move to another comment, hold on for just one second. We've lost Alderman Maynard. We've got to check his status. Hello? Can you hear us, Alderman? All right, all right. Please
Again,
continue.
Mr.
Alderman
Peters.
Nguyen has the floor, Alderman Maynard.
I just want to say thank you. You are the epitome of what I call teamwork, and it takes a lot of teamwork to be able to run the city, and you're one of those that recognize that. I even like the way that you work with our other department heads. I just wanted to say thank you so much tonight. Thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Yes,
I know they got a lot going on with Mississippi State this weekend, but we also have 83 teams coming in for a state tournament, so it's gonna be really crowded with the 83 teams that we have this year, this weekend coming in also.
thank you, Mr. Peters. Mr. Sanders. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. On last Wednesday, Mr. Sanders hosted approximately about 35 people upstairs in the large conference room as it relates to the 182 corridor project. The mayor and I were there, and I just want to say how well you did, and thank you so much for hosting those people, bringing the information available in this informal session. So I want to thank you so much for all that it is that you do, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Alderwoman Nguyen. I would like to invite the public to a charrette that the consultants will have on Monday, June 20th at 6 p.m. at the second floor conference room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
City Engineer Kemp, will you please come forward for me? Ms. Gandy, will you please come forward and step to the side? Mr. Kemp, about 2 weeks ago, I had a matter as it relates to my ward with the Reeses on Louisville Street. And they are an older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Reese, they're on Louisville Street. You were, of course, out of town, and I had to call Mr. Cody B., as I call him, Mr. Cody Barnett. Mr. Cody Barnett went to the home of the Reeses, and again, they are an older couple. And Mrs. Reese want me to tell you, say he was so kind to her. As a matter of fact, she had cooked and had intentions of feeding him. He just didn't have time to do that. But she stated how nice he was to her. And so often we want to hear good statements and comments about our city employees. And I just wanted to be able to share that with you and the board members, because most people don't see Cody B., as I call him. Cody B. is a great guy here for our city, Cody Barnett. So I just wanted to share that with you about one of your employees.
I concur, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Gandy? While you were out on vacation, I want to tell you something. Your guys over there, they had a good time, I heard, on Friday. I heard that Bully's Burgers and Wings on Russell Street, they provided them hamburgers. I heard that they had chips over there, and then in some of your cookies gave them some chips. And the person responsible for that, I want to take credit, but I can't. It's from none other than the vice mayor's ward, and they don't want to be identified other than to say that they are a constituent of Ward 6. So I just wanted to say that was so kind for that person
Yes,
to do this for your guys.
and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay? And Mr. Kemp, you don't have to come forward. I want to say something about Mr. Charlie Hester, who does lots of business projects for our city. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Kemp, Mr. Hester, doing a transition of one of your employees, and Mr. Hester needed a piece for the project that he was working on, and he wasn't able to get it because of just a little transition in your department. Mr. Hester and his personnel went out, got that part so that they could go ahead and start back on our project. Those are little things that we don't hear that people do. And I just want to say thanks so much to Mr. Charlie Hester, and I look forward to the work that he'll be doing in my ward soon. That is about it, Mayor and members of the board, and I yield the floor at this time. Thank you.
Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further announcements or comments? Alderman Little.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't congratulate Coach Cohen and our Diamond Dogs for a big win this weekend, and those that stayed out to the end of it the other night for the championship. It was a late night Sunday evening, but it was a huge weekend for us, and there'll be an even a bigger weekend this weekend coming up. And I've heard about the huge baseball tournament we got in town. I suspect every hotel room we've got, probably in a 30-mile radius, will be sold out. But that's good for MSU. It's good for Starkville, and looking forward to maybe another record to be set, or a couple records to be set this weekend.
Further announcements and comments by the members of the board? Any further announcements and comments by the members of the board? Any further announcements and comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Greetings to the mayor and board. My name is Adam Tom, Ward 7. to Vice Mayor Perkins,
Thank you, Ms. Alvin.
Alderman Vaughn, and Alderman Walker.
Thank you, Al.
Citizen would like to say thank you, Chief Nichols, for letting us know what you guys go through, and if we know, then we can help better or know better. Chief, Fire Chief, thank you for letting us know what you guys go through, and we can help better. Just continue to let us know what they go through, because we depend on, if our house catch fire, we look for the fire department. If we have the steering, we look for the police department. We thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
We we would like for, it's getting hot now, and we would like for the female drivers to have a decent, safe place to stop if they have to take a break on Old Main and South Drive. Have a safe place to take care of themselves, because it's getting hot now. And also, Mrs. Braithfield, we need to show our taxpayers that we care. She was freaked out a couple of nights ago, but she better. Let's show our taxpayers that we care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And we have lost Alderman Maynard again. Alderman Maynard, are you with us? All right, let's take,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, you're still with us. All right.
That must have been,
Yeah.
you must have texted me earlier.
All right, so we'll continue with citizen comment.
Good evening, Mayor, board members. My name is Chris Taylor. We keep talking about how good our departments are doing. You know, we got to reward these people with money. That's why they leaving us. That's why we always seem like every month, every week, we hire new sanitation, policemen, firemen. Why? We train them and they leave because they get more money from other organizations. Now, we just talked about Herman Peters in the parks. Well, I was on that board for almost 4 years, and he's still underpaid. I could get a sports director $65,000, and the assistant get, I think, 35. Let me see. The assistant get 38 to 44, and that's Ole Miss. You know we can do better than that. Let's reward these people, not no 3%. 3% ain't doing nothing to the lower sanitation worker or that man out there in the street department. Let's give them some money. We got it. If we talking about giving this industrial park money and everybody else money, let's give it to the people who deserve it. Thank you.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Alderman Webb.
Mr. Taylor, if you would.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Taylor, thank you so much for making those statements. It saddens me as an alderman to know that I live in a city that we have firemen, more than 15, that are not making $10 an hour. When I mentioned that to someone, they were shocked and told me that I wasn't telling the truth. I was working on something about 2 months ago and requested some information from HR. And I learned that more than 15 of our firemen are not making $10 an hour. Some of them are not even making $9.50. Later on, of course, I know about the guys in the sanitation department that work so hard for us. They're not even making $9 an hour. It's sad and unfortunate, but I want you to know I'm only one alderman on this board. Thank you. Mayor,
Thank
I yield
you.
the
That's
floor.
one voice. I'd like to hear the other 6 voices say the same thing. Let's work on this and get these people paid. That way I keep our city #1 in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments?
I have one. I want to give everybody else a chance first to get up, but I do have one. Man, look like I can see all of y'all. Like, yes, no, I'm gonna stay right here. I think y'all can hear me. Can't everybody hear me? I think everybody can. Thank you, though. I really appreciate that. I would just like to say I appreciate everything everybody doing, all of the services that we're giving here. And we have proved ourselves with our police, our firemen. And I would just like to say, and with every other service, I'm not trying to leave out no service, because, you know, I was on Park and Recreation, you know, that's my love. So, you know, I'm trying to say, I would like to thank them for what they're doing here in the city of Starkville. And also, I came tonight because I saw where Alderman Wynn was proposing to have the police department locate here. I would just like to say, let's vote for that and get it on, and let's not go into doing something because somebody gave us a donation to run our campaign. Because now, time to vote is coming up, and you know, Dorothy Isaac back. I told you I'm back, and I'm here to do what I got to do. Please, let's house them up here so they can be in a proper location. We're compared to Jackson right now with our police department, and they're doing a fine job. Everybody's doing a fine job, like I say. So please, let's house them up here and let's get it over with. And thank you, Sister Wynn, for doing that. And I would just like to say, while I'm up here, I would just like to say for the summer people that are working, you see what you got to do. You got to remember your city and come back and work for the city, okay? Work for the city. Like, I'm so glad that Chris said what he said, because I was going to put that in there too, but I can use my minutes for something else right now, and I can just say, please, let us get together. I told you this before when I first came back. I told you this before, let us get together and quit trying to put politics in front of everything. Put the true meaning of everything into it. We got a lot of space here in this building. Let's use it. That's my tax money. I might give me a little office up here, but that's my tax money. I would just like to say, let's use it wisely. Okay, let's use it wisely, and thank you all for the job that you do. And I will be back. You know I'll be back. But I would just like to say tonight, please, please, let's sell that and get it over with. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Ms. Isaac. Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances, and we have 2 scheduled public appearances tonight. Each of you will have 10 minutes to make your presentation, and I ask that you remain for any questions or comments that the board may have when you've completed your presentation. The first is by Ms. Nadia Colon with the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. I thank you all for allowing us a few minutes just to come before you. As the Mayor said, my name is Nadia Colon, and I've had the pleasure of being with the Boys and Girls Club of the Golden Triangle for almost 3 years now. I'm serving as their executive director for what's now 2 of the 3 cities in the Golden Triangle, Columbus and Starkville, and prayerfully we'll move on to West Point at some point in the future. Tonight I just wanted to kind of come before you and give you a brief update on where the things are with the Boys and Girls Club. We've been working really hard in the last few years just to increase the quality of our programming. We know that there's so many young people out here who need the services that we offer, and sometimes our story just doesn't get told well enough. So that's really the purpose of my visit tonight. I left you guys each a brochure as well as sort of a quick fact sheet about the Boys and Girls Club, and you can please, take a look at that at your leisure, but I will spend some time talking through this quick fact sheet with you. The Boys and Girls Club's mission is to enable all youth, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as caring, productive, responsible citizens. I can assure you that the team of people that I work with at the Boys and Girls Club, we don't take that mission lightly. We come in every day looking for an opportunity to enrich the lives of the young people that we have. And I can tell you one of the most disheartening things for us that we've been faced with lately is the fact that we've had to look in the eyes of some of the parents, look in the eyes of some of the young people who really want to be there, who know what we do each day and who've heard about the services that we offer, and we've had to tell them, I'm sorry, we just can't accommodate you this summer. We just can't accommodate you this year. We just don't have the space. So that's been one of our greatest challenges this year. But before we dig into that, I just want to give you a little bit more of the makeup of the organization. We are currently right now in our Starkville unit serving 140 members strong. We have about 50 members on our wait list right now who are fighting down the doors to say, if anybody just leaves early this summer, please call us back, let us know, we want to be there. Our board of directors is currently made up of 16 members that are both from Columbus and the Starkville community. Our board president right now is Ms. Angela Verdell, who's from Columbus, Mississippi, and our vice chair is Dirk Felton from Columbus Air Force Base. We do have an advisory board that serves the organization as well. It's about 17 members strong. I'm sure many of you know Dr. Roy Ruby, who's been with us for several years, Dr. Melvin Ray, who's really helped kind of build the organization. Those guys are still very well involved with the organization, very supportive of us. In terms of our membership and our makeup, I explained a little bit earlier that we have a capacity for 140, and that's where we're running every day at the clubs right now. Our total enrollment, which included both our members from the fall and the spring, plus those who are currently registered for the summer, totals up to about 339 members right now. And I'll just share that even of those 140 kids that we're seeing right now this summer, only about 30 of those were even with us during the fall and the spring. We're talking about 110 brand new young people that weren't there throughout this school year who've come, and then about 100 and so of our kids who were with us who were having to find other things to do for the summer. So that's just for us showing us that there is this demand for the services that we offer. In terms of our staffing, we have 3 full-time staff, myself as well as 2 unit directors, one that manages and oversees each site. Our unit director here in Starkville's name is Ms. Shayla Jefferson. She's been a fantastic addition to our team. She's only been with us a little less than a year now. She's a Mississippi State graduate, very, very active and vocal in her community, been a volunteer for several years. We also have about 9 part-time staff, as well as, and what we call our part-time staff, youth development professionals, because that's the work that they do. They develop youth to be those positive, caring, productive young citizens that we hope for them to be. We also have volunteer coordinators that work with us. We recently added a food program so that we're able to serve snack and dinner at our Columbus facility, and hopefully, as we look for options and opportunities to expand our services and facilities in Starkville, we'll be able to serve the members dinner there as well. But we do serve a hot meal in Columbus, but a snack for all of our members here in Starkville each day. Some of the programs that we offer that I think you'd be really interested to know. We have everything from academic enrichment programming, what we call Power Hour, which is the time that when our young people get, home from after school, first thing we do is work with them on their homework, make sure that they're getting that done, because a lot of our parents, we know they count on us to make sure that when their kids get there, they're getting that homework done, because they may not get home until late and not have the opportunity to really work through it with them. And then we also have what we call sort of character enrichment programs. We have one that I know the kids love. It's called our Smart Girls program. It has its partner called Passport to Manhood. And both those programs are really designed to help young people build the kind of character that you want them to have as young men and young women, having healthy self-image, understanding real positive aspects of what it is to be a man, learning how to tie a tie, learning how to be a gentleman, learning how, to be respectful to your elders, this sort of thing. We also have for our older members programs that help kind of build them for their futures. We have a program called Career Lunch, where we invite people from the community in different business fields to come and to speak with our young people about the careers that they're involved with, just sort of give them that exposure so that they can, begin to ask themselves questions about what they want to do in the future. We also have a Diploma to Degrees program where we work with young people from grade 9 through 12 to help them map out their plan for what you intend to do once you graduate high school. What colleges are you looking at? We also provide college exposure. We're doing about 3 college tours this summer with our teens at both facilities. So it's definitely a well-rounded program that I don't know that many people get an opportunity to see and feel and touch for themselves. So I really wanted to come before you tonight just to give you a bit of a glimpse of what we do, but also really to encourage you to get more engaged with our Boys and Girls Club. We need you guys. We really sincerely need you now more than ever. As I said, the biggest challenge for us is looking at young people that we know could benefit from the services that we have and not be able to serve them. For us, it's directly defeating our mission, because that's what we're here to do, serve those young people who need us the most. And so I would love to invite you to come by the Boys and Girls Club sometimes, visit with us. We're there this summer 5 days a week from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We have a late pickup as well for our parents, so we may be there till about 5, but encourage you to come during the daytime, see some of the programs that we're running. One that I forgot to mention to you that I think you would really be interested in is our summer Brain Game program. It's Brain Game. And the objective of that program is we know that young people, once the summer bell rings, they go home. They may not, engage in anything concerning academics for the rest of the summer. And we know that because of that, they lose so much of the information that they've gained during that school year. And so for us, it's important that we make up that time when they're in front of us, and we give them an opportunity to just kind of keep those brain brain juices flowing throughout the summer. So we do everything from reading projects with them during summer brain gain to science enrichment programming, and it's just a really fun time, a lot of fun for young people. So really want to encourage you to come by, see what we're doing, visit us. And finally, I want to say thank you. I know everybody has been thanking a lot of folks here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you as well. We've had the support of both the police department as well as the fire department with things from our CPR training to just coming out, having them speak with our young people, tell them about what they do in their fields, and it's meant a lot to us. So I really want to thank Chief Nichols, Chief Yarborough for the time that you've spent with our young people. And finally, I'd like to just take any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board for Ms. Cologne?
Ms. Cologne, I think we met, approximately 2 months ago.
That's right.
First of all, you called me a couple of times and we finally meshed our schedules together, and I told you that I was coming because I was afraid that your husband would subpoena me to court, so I came on. So that was about 2 months ago. I want to thank you for all it is that you and your staff do for the students down there. What a lot of people don't realize, I used to be a classroom teacher, and let me say this. Sometimes if a student doesn't attend a program like Boys and Girls, or maybe a brick fire program, they go to school the next day. They haven't had anything else to eat since they left the Boys and Girls Club or maybe the brick fire project. And it is crucial that we have a program in place to be able to assist them, because nothing crushes you more than to see a kid come to school and he or she doesn't have his homework. And a lot of times now, because the mothers are not knowledgeable of the subject matter, they don't have anyone to help them with. Third graders are now working on STEM plots. So
true.
Mom and Dad don't know how. They go to school without their homework. It is crucial now, and I always say, I want to see to it that my son is out of school and out of college, but I want our kids educated so that when I get in the nursing home, they're able to read, give me the medicine that belonged to Miss Wynn and not that belonged to Miss Williams. It's crucial that we educate our children. That's how imperative it is.
That's true.
I'm allergic to amoxicillin. It could possibly kill me. I want her to be able to read my chart and know that I'm Wynn and not Williams or Wilson. So thank you for the work that it is that you do. What most people don't know, the city of Starkville provides more than $100,000 to the Humane Society. But yet a program like the Boys and Girls Club received less than $6,000. Brick Fire received less than $6,000. By all means, I'm respectful of pets and I'm respectful of the Humane Society, but a pet will not be able to read my chart when I'm at the nursing home. Thank you. Mayor, I yield the floor.
Are there any other questions or comments from the members of the board? Any other questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Cologne, and thank you for your
Thank you. May I just make one final comment? In addition to, welcoming and inviting you to come to the clubs, I know that you guys have so much before you right now, especially with the comprehensive plan. I failed to mention Mr. Peters, who's been a huge asset to us as we've tried to navigate some of our limited space restrictions. But I just ask that you do keep us in mind as you're moving resources and you're finding out, different opportunities for other organizations or just for whatever you're doing. Please keep the Boys and Girls Club in mind. Thank you.
Ms. Cologne. All right, our next public appearance is by Jamie Bachman. Is Ms. Bachman here this evening? Ms. Bachman? All right, yeah. We will reschedule Ms. Bachman for another meeting. Next matter before you is a public hearing. The first public hearing pertaining to the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, specifically Appendix A, Zoning, Article 7, District Regulation, Section T, Section 7.3, Building Form, and Section 7.4, Building Use, and 8.4, Building Use. Alderman Walker, would you like to introduce this matter?
Well, let's staff introduce it.
All right, we'll ask Mr. Sanders and Mr. Havlin to come forward and introduce this matter.
As part of this ordinance modification or change, the things that we're going to be addressing is mainly the location of the doors and how they address the street, and then also the amount of retail or commercial space that's on the bottom floor, specifically facing or addressing the street. The first one is 7.3 building form. And as you can see on the screen, we're basically replacing A, which is principal entrances of any secondary building shall be oriented toward a frontage line, driveway, or facade of an outbuilding. And we're proposing that that be replaced with the principal entrance of any primary or secondary building shall be oriented toward a frontage line or a facade of a secondary or primary building. And what this is going to address is the problem that sort of came up on Russell Street with the apartments that are being built now. Those apartments are rear loaded, so the doors to those apartments, for all intents and purposes, is through the parking lot. And what this will address is that the door will now be on the street so that you actually help create the urban environment that the T districts are intended to, foster throughout the city. The second part of this ordinance is addressing a similar situation with what's occurring on Russell is we keep getting more and more residential use without the commercial. They kind of go hand in hand together, especially with the T districts have a reduced kind of parking calculation compared to the rest of the city. And if you don't have the commercial and the residential in the right balance, then the parking will become a problem. Because the residents will have to leave and get in their car to drive somewhere to get their daily needs. But if you can get the balance between the commercial and the residential, then the parking calculations that you have will work. And that proposal is to add a new part to 7.4 building use. The first floor of any building located within a T5 district, with the exception of Colonel Muldrow Avenue, Loomis Drive, Fellowship Street, Hogan Street, Worley Street, shall be 100% commercial use on any side adjacent to the public street. A variance seeking a reduction in the amount of commercial space shall be based on the following factors: physical location of the property, topography of the site, and availability of parking, existing or planned uses on adjacent property, and overall need of the area. I've got an illustration just to pull up so that you can see the actual areas that we're talking about and why some of these streets were left out. The lighter color brown is our T5 districts. That's the districts that allow the maximum of 4 stories. It's a slightly less intense use than what downtown is. The streets that are left off would be Muldrow Avenue, which is over here, which is primary residential, not requiring commercial along that street. Loomis, which is similar. It's not saying the commercial couldn't go there, it's just not being required. Fellowship Street, which is next to the cemetery along the west side. Hogan Street, which starts at the cemetery and runs all the way to Worley Street, and then Worley Street that goes up. Worley Street in particular is pretty much built out. There's only one parcel left to be developed on that. And then Hogan Street, and this portion is pretty well built out, with the exception of one parcel. In addition to this, would also like to address that same issue with our T6, which is our most urban and developed district. The first floor of any building located within a T6 district, with the exception of Caldwell Street, Holt Singer, Maxwell Street, Cotton Row, shall be 100% commercial use on any side adjacent to a public street. A variance seeking a reduction in the amount of commercial space required shall be based on the following factors: physical location of the property, topography of the site, availability of parking, existing or planned uses on adjacent property, and overall need of the area. And the streets that we're addressing here that are being excluded from it would, first would be Caldwell Street, which is very residential, but is zoned with our most intense use in the T district. Maxwell Street, which is located in the Cotton District. Cotton Row, which is basically Old Hogan Street as it gets into the Cotton District. Buddy, is there anything you want to add to?
Typically, especially in our T6 area, typically C3 area in most communities, it is very common for cities to have requirement that 100% of the first floor will be commercial. Right now, if someone wanted to come in and make condos on the first floor of the building downtown, they could do so, and we would lose that sales tax revenue. Thankfully, our downtown is very vibrant, very healthy, and I don't see that happening, but it's possible that could happen. So I highly recommend
Questions or comments from the members of the board? Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments?
Thank you for presenting this. I think over the last several years since the adoption of the form-based code, I think we have seen, we have made great strides, and we have a tremendous amount of development pressure within these zones, and that was the intent, was to try to create infill development where we already have existing infrastructure, and I think it's been wildly successful. I also agree that all of these ordinances and zones are living, breathing documents, and we need, now that this has been in place for a few years and we're beginning to see projects happen, it is time to address some areas that may need to be tweaked a little bit to correct some deficiencies in the code that we couldn't foresee when the code was originally adopted. So with that, Mr. Havlin, if you could go back to that previous slide. One more, right there. I have a few suggestions that I would like for the board to also consider where we maybe just clean up some language a little bit and maybe make some slight alterations. I agree completely with the change for A. I think that is clearly appropriate. I would also say if we look at B, I think that is something that certainly warrants consideration, where we're looking at the maximum height of buildings being 4 stories. I think primarily some of the new buildings that you see being built have been 4 stories, and they're pretty big. I think 3 stories may be something that long-term that we maybe want to consider, and that's something that I would certainly be willing to ponder as we move forward. The same thing then with C. I would look for the same thing, be consistent in looking at 3 stories across that. I think is a discussion that is worth having. If we look at G, I would recommend, we've had to deal with this issue almost on every project that has been before us. I would recommend striking G altogether and eliminating a first-story residential lodging use shall be raised a minimum of 3 feet from the average grade of the walkway, and would propose inserting this language as new G. A first-story non-residential use shall not be raised or lowered more than 18 inches from the walkway to the point or points of access into the building. And what this really is looking at is when you have that commercial use, trying to keep that commercial use access at grade as much as possible to reduce the amount of ramps, to make access from the street for everybody very easy. The most successful commercial spaces are going to be accessed at grade. And right now we're hamstringed a little bit by this code because developers are having to, in a sense, raise their foundations up. That makes it a little bit more difficult to make that happen. So I believe that would be a change that could be worthwhile. If you can go down to G, where you have G under 7.4. Let's see, hold on. One thing, I'm going to come back to B and C real quick. I think these are changes that we can all agree on. While I'm willing to contemplate the height issue, just a bookkeeping scenario where it says Table 3 and Table 12, it's actually Table 13, so that just needs to be updated in the code where it says refer to Table 3 and on Table 12. It's actually Table 3 and on Table 13, so that would be for both B and C. We just need to housekeeping and make those updates. If I go down to 7.4 in building use, I agree that it is absolutely critical that we ensure that we have a true mix of uses in these zones. That is the intent of the form-based codes, is to allow a combination of residential and non-residential uses, whether that's going to be retail or office space. And right now, there is no requirement along our main corridors, Russell Street, University Drive, 182, for there to be any commercial development on that first floor. I believe that that is something that needs to be addressed. I also believe that requiring 100% of that to be commercial might be a little bit difficult to ascertain. I think we're going to get a tremendous amount of variance request for that. I don't know that it completely contemplates how you would access the residential units or the office spaces that may be on the second or third floor. So I would propose the following language as a replacement for Mr. Havlin, the community development's G. The first floor of any building located within a T5 district shall be non-residential use on at least 70% of the total building's facade along a frontage line. Lots along Colonel Muldrow, Loomis Drive, Fellowship Street, Hogan Street, and Worley Street shall be excluded from this requirement. A variance seeking a reduction in the amount of the non-residential total building's facade requirement shall be based on the following factors, just as written here: physical location of the property, topography of the site, availability of parking, existing or planned uses or on adjacent property, and overall need of the area. So let me try to paint a picture for what that means. Let's say that you have a building that faces a main frontage line, University Drive or Russell Street. Let's say that building is 100 feet in length. It has 100 feet that is adjacent, that fronts that frontage line. This would require that 70 feet of that 100 feet would be required to have commercial use. And 30 feet could be anything other than non-commercial use. Okay? So what that does is doesn't require 100%. Now, let's look at this. Let's say that on that same 100-foot lot, you have two buildings that are 50 feet each. In that 50 feet each, I give the developer options. I can develop 35 feet on one building as commercial and 35 feet on the other building to get to my 70 feet total. Or I could develop one building 100% commercial and then 30 feet on the other building, or some combination thereof. So if a developer has multiple buildings along that frontage line, the key is that overall facade entrance would have to be 70% as opposed to 100. To me, that gives a little bit more flexibility and would hopefully reduce the amount of variances that we're seeking, and would still get to the intent of what we're looking at, is a requirement for there to be some commercial use on our primary corridors of Russell Street, University Drive, and Highways 182. We talked about the T6, but I didn't see T6 is actually 8.3 building form. I would recommend a similar thing that we've recommended in T5. If I go back to 8.3, I think T6 allows for buildings to be 5 stories in height. Again, I think we have not seen a 5-story building built yet in a T6 zone. And if you think the 4-story buildings change the character of our city, wait and see what a 5-story building looks like. I think that for points of discussion, I think it is definitely worth our while to contemplate what it would mean to make a reduction of that T6 height requirement down to either 4 stories or 3 stories that may be more appropriate for the scale of our city. I personally would much rather see multiple lots developed with 3-story buildings where we're filling in those holes, as opposed to a single building of 5 stories where we have vacant space left beside of it. I think that would serve our community well. Under 8.3 D, again, D, and this one is first-story residential or lodging function shall be raised a minimum of 3 feet from the average grade of the walkway. Again, I would recommend that we strike that language and replace it with the same language that was in 7.3. A first-story non-residential use shall not be raised or lowered more than 18 inches from the points, 18 inches from the walkway to the points of access into the building. Everything else in that would essentially stay the same. Under 8.4, where Mr. Haviland has added a C, I would add this following, modify that C to read as following. The first floor of any building located within a T6 district shall be non-residential use on at least 70% of the total building's facade along a frontage line. Lots along Caldwell Street, Holtzinger Avenue, Maxwell Street, and Cotton Row shall be excluded from this requirement. A variance seeking a reduction in the amount of the non-residential total building's facade requirement shall be based on the following factors: physical location of the property, topography of the site, availability of parking, existing or planned uses on adjacent property, and overall need of the area. On 8.3, once again, just to clean up some language, it refers to the maximum height of a primary building shall be 5 stories. It says see Table 3 and on Table 15. That is actually should be see Table 3 and on Table 16. So again, I think that's just a piece of housekeeping that needs to be addressed. I would certainly welcome other aldermen and the public's input on these matters. I think this change in zoning that was adopted from the last administration is serving our city very well, and with a few minor tweaks, I think can get to the intent of what the real intent of the districts were, and I think is going to make the products that we get even better. So with that, I yield the floor, Mayor.
Questions or comments for Alderman Walker? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move into the public comment portion of the public hearing. At this time, anyone wishing to make comments on the proposed changes to the ordinance may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on the subject of the potential ordinance change. Is there anyone now wishing to speak? Is there anyone now wishing to speak? Is there anyone now wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we'll hear
Go ahead, sorry.
concluding comments from the members of the board. Alderman Walker, do you wish to be recognized?
I'd like to make a motion, if I might.
Right.
I'd like to move approval to grant authorization to advertise a public notice of a second public hearing pertaining to the proposed amendment to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, specifically Appendix A, zoning, Article 7, District Regulations, Section T, Section 7.3, Building Form, Section 7.4, Building Use, Section 8.3, Building Form, and Section 8.4, Building Use, along with all subsequent associated tables and graphics as appropriate, and authorizing to advertise to the public notice of the intent of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen to hold a second public hearing pertaining to the proposed amendments to the ordinance at the June 21st, 26th meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Have you reduced that to writing?
Yes.
Could you pass it forward? All right. As the motion has been reduced to writing and it's been placed with the city clerk without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Saying no objection, do I hear a second? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
The city attorney's asked.
Alderman Walker, just to be clear about your motion, is it your intent that the draft to be brought back at the second hearing include all of your changes that you commented on tonight?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for that great observation. I just want to say to the gentleman from Ford, I want to commend you for your very comprehensiveness and thoroughness and meticulousness with that, and you made some very strong and substantive points there. And I was going to allude to what the city attorney was just saying, that I think it would be in the best interest of our city and board for your comments to be a part of this public hearing as we proceed. And it is my respectful recommendation that the board give very serious attention, consideration, and observation to all of your comments. And certainly, as to the Vice Mayor, they're well taken. And I follow you very carefully on your comments, and I fully support all of your recommendations, and so we can make that part of the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Attorney, and I'm in full support of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion? Alderman Walker.
No discussion. Again, thank you, Vice Mayor, for that, and I would also say thank you for the Community Development Department, Mr. Havlin specifically, Mr. Sanders, for working diligently on trying to make these changes happen and giving us good drafts that then we could then tweak and bring forward a product that is going to make us better. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Alderman Carter.
While we're speaking about Russell Street and appropriate use, probably one of the biggest comments I get from constituents right now is the setback, and the comments I'm getting are, man, those apartments are really close to Russell Street. I don't know if y'all are feeling those same comments, but did everything, was that planned as is, and everything appropriate on the apartments beside down the hatch? And are you feeling those same complaints?
I think the people it is a change with those buildings being closer to the street. It is much more like a main street. There have been some yes, I have fielded some concerns with that. I think too, what you're going to see is that Russell Street in particular, the cross section of that is about to change. It has been approved to change, and so when on-street parking is added, I think it's going to give a little bit more what feels like a buffer from that. Yeah, the buildings are close to the street. The setback requirement is a maximum or a minimum of 2 feet with a maximum of 15 feet in a T5. And that setback requirement gives you urban form. And so I think, yes, that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. And I also agree that what's going to help that feel not as close to the street is if you go from 4-story building to a 3-story building in the future is going to make a tremendous difference.
And how does that entail with the boulevard coming, you're saying a 2-foot setback and a T5, so will the sidewalk be inside? I mean, sidewalk will still come right around the corner of that building, right?
The engineer for that project maybe can answer that more specifically, but I can tell you generally, yes, that within the right-of-way is going to be, the sidewalk will be inside of the city right-of-way. So it is not on private property. It is going to be in the public domain. So on Russell Street in particular, you are going to see a 2-lane street instead of a 4-lane street with on-street parking and sidewalks and bike lanes on both sides of the street that is going to make that corridor much more usable for every citizen of Starkville.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Alderman Little. He mentioned calls he'd been getting and receiving about the Russell Street complex being enclosed. My calls that I've been getting have more been geared toward the facade and the overall appearance. And he mentioned, Alderman Walker mentioned living, breathing documents earlier. It may be time to revisit our facade ordinance that just put on the books about a year ago, because with the hardy board that they put on there, it doesn't give the appearance that I would like to have for that area that's changing right now, and I don't think it's changing in a positive way with that regard, and it may be something we need to revisit and tweak going forward. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, sir. Alderman Walker.
Alderman Little, I can agree with that completely. I think one of the things that we're looking at here is the facade ordinance is a separate document from the T-District ordinance itself, and the complaints that I've received more is about what the buildings look like. And I think that's, well, everybody has their own opinion, but I think that is a fair criticism. And I believe that absolutely that is something that we need to look at moving forward to make sure that not only are the building heights and the setbacks what we want, but also the character and the quality of the buildings are what is the intention of the form-based code. So I completely agree that it is probably time to think about how do we tighten up the facade ordinance, especially in those zones, if necessary, to look to how do we control the quality of the product that we're going to get so it fits the character of the existing neighborhoods.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, that will conclude the first public hearing on the potential ordinance change to the T-District. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we had a motion for a second public hearing. At this time, please answer yay, nay, or abstain, and the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The next matter that you have before you is the consideration of the Pilot Club proposal for an improvement to J.L. King Park. I believe we have some representatives from the Pilot Club with us tonight. Will you be making a presentation? Please come forward and make your presentation.
My name is Chris Umplingford, and I'm representing the Pilot Club, and I have a small entourage back here helping me with this. I don't know how I got chosen to do this, but anyway. I want to thank you for letting us come before you and talk a little bit about some additions to be made to the J.L. King Park. Interesting enough tonight, I've heard the word brain development and play and fun. And so Pilot Club's concept in terms of making the proposals that we present tonight is based on having brain development and fun and play. And basically that is the mission statement for the Pilot Club International, and that's to transform communities by developing youth, providing service and education, and of course uplifting families, with a special focus on brain fitness. Therefore, the Pilot Club would like to continue to enrich our community with those thoughts in mind. We have recently completed the music trail in the Key Park, and we want to expand upon the music and the play theme of that endeavor in terms of the proposal before the jail King Park. I've been by the splash pad several days now. Children are having a lot of fun. I didn't realize that the nozzles shot at different heights. I've basically been studying this during the winter months, so I've had an opportunity to really see how it works. I've never been to a splash pad before. A lot of children were there playing and having fun. If you go to some of the more, the bigger splash pad setups, they have water features that are added to them. So we would like to consider adding a water feature to the current splash pad. Arc 4 built the splash pad, and they built it with the fact in mind that you could actually just mount on each nozzle a play feature. So it's not really breaking concrete. So there's not a huge installation cost involved if we go through Arc 4. Anyway, we want something vertical and that can be seen from the street and kind of call people to come in and play. So basically, we're looking at installing a stimulating water feature. In addition to that, at the J.F. King Park, Rhapsody has come forth with some beautiful musical instruments. One of them is a chime, and I'm sure you've received your packet here. I've heard it played. You can actually go online and listen to it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Well-designed chimes. Also, we're looking to incorporate 3 different kinds of drums, and all of that is geared toward play and music and fun and brain development. So basically, we're looking at the splash pad, and the opportunities that we want to improve will take place over the next 2 to 3 years. Is what we're looking for. I think it took 4 years for the music trail to be built at around, I think it cost about $34,000. So it was a huge endeavor. To put in some kind of vertical structure would cost approximately $11,000. That would be purchase, shipment, and installation. And the chimes and the drums would cost around $12,500 again to purchase, ship, and install. I've made an attempt to estimate a playground surface for the musical instruments according to the American Disabilities Act, and I've come up with some kind of cost of around $1,700, and we're hoping that the city would help us by funding that part of the project for the musical instruments. Additionally, if it may be possible that we actually give you the grants to purchase either the water feature and the musical instruments, that would allow us to save approximately 60% in taxes. But that's something for us to consider. A lot of that will depend on the grant writing that has to come forward. Timeline, we're basically looking to purchase the water play feature for the splash pad, and then the chimes and the drums. But of course, a lot of this, the determination of the order of these 2 things will be driven by grant fund availability. I mentioned earlier that the McKee Music Trail Park took 4 years and around $34,000 to install. We expect this project to be completed within 2 to 3 years. And long range, we've kind of coined a new term for the city of Starkville, allow us that opportunity to call it the city of musical play. So with that theme in mind, in other parks and areas for Starkville, we'll get play with music. Any questions?
All right, so Ms. Emblencourt, what you are asking for is you are asking for the city's approval to potentially make the alterations to the park.
Yes.
You are asking for authorization to write grant proposals on behalf of the city.
Right, we'll use grants and other funding opportunities.
And you're asking for in-kind services as well as monetary support with an approximate budget of $1,700 for the trail surface that'll go around the instruments. Is that everything? Okay.
Like to know when we might have a decision. We're about to submit a grant, and kind of like to know soon, because next week we have a grant due that we're going to be working on.
Okay. Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you so much, and I'd be very grateful and very thankful for this project to take place. And I see the music at McKee. I take my grandkids down there. They enjoy playing there, and I'm sure that they will enjoy doing something different at J.L. King Park. Mayor, with that being said, I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
Suggest motion to authorize to accept a donation and playground equipment from the Pilot Club of Starkville and to approve that the grant submitted to the city of Starkville name.
And do you mind adding to that?
Don't mind.
In-kind services and monetary support to install the trail?
Please do.
Okay. All right, so that would be a motion to authorize the city to accept a donation of playground equipment from the Pilot Club at J.L. King Park and to approve the grant submittal in the city of Starkville's name, and also to approve in-kind and monetary support related to installing the trail that will go around the musical instrument. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Thank you again very much.
You're welcome. The J.L. King is a beautiful park, well maintained. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman
excuse
Wynn.
me. If you will you have, I noticed one of my former teacher colleagues, Miss Ellen Bowles, is in the audience, and will you have your other little entourage, as you refer to them, to stand so we can recognize them, please?
Yes, get them all.
Further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
We got a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. But please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Wynn.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the commitment letter on the tax increment financing bonds for the Nicholas tax increment financing plan. You now have numbers, and the numbers you knew before is that you had pledged 75% of sales tax on the property and 75% of property value gain as a result of the development. In addition to those numbers, this has now been in the market, and you know that the offer that's been made on them is a 10-year repayment period at a 5% interest rate for a total issuance of $1.135 million that again is secured by that 75% of sales tax growth and 75% of property value growth. Discussion.
Mayor, I would like to go ahead and present the motion.
Okay.
Okay. Move approval of the tax increment financing bond commitment Nicholas site in the amount of $1,135,000.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of the tax increment financing bonds commitment at the Nicholas site in the amount of $1,135,000 as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do we plan on setting a line item available for the
Yeah.
177 going forward?
Yeah, now, all of the $177,000 is not our responsibility. That includes the county property tax as well, which Demery, if my memory serves correct, is in the neighborhood of $30,000.
Yes, sir.
So approximately $145,000 to $150,000 of that responsibility will be ours annually for the next 10 years. And yes, I asked that the first payment not come until after October 1st of this year. We don't have a payment schedule yet, do we, Denver?
July 17th.
Okay. So in the next fiscal year, we will have to budget for a payment of approximately $145,000 to $150,000. Denver, you might be able to polish that number a little bit.
To give you an actual, I'm Demery Grubb, serving at your FA. Basically, your allocation is that 24,000 comes out of the county. 75% of their ad valorem taxes, of the city ad valorem taxes, it's about 10,000. The balance of that is made up of your sales tax diversion that comes from the state. You're getting we've calculated about $190,000 a year. You pledge 75% of that, it's about $140,000. That makes up the 177.
So is your number $24,000 that they will actually pay, or is it $10,000?
It's 24. The city's paying 10, the county's paying 24.
So I was off about $10,000. It'll be between $150,000 and $155,000. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further? Alderman Maynard.
I just want to make sure city clerk had this gift put in a separate budget line for the budget next year, so that as any of these gifts get funded, that we can track and follow those individually.
All right, and I think the financial advisor would like to speak to that issue you raised, Alderman Maynard.
Alderman Maynard, it's required by law that there be set up a separate account. So it's a requirement of the TIF Act itself that it's got to be set up as a separate line item.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of the approval of the commitment to a Mississippi Capital Improvements Revolving Loan. CAP loan can be derived from current and future water fees and revenue in the Water Enterprise Fund upon said project by the Mississippi, being approved by the Mississippi Development Authority. Ms. Benson, would you like to introduce?
Certainly. Your most recent CAP loan application was completed, submitted to the Mississippi Development Authority. It has been reviewed. This project, as you remember, totaled approximately $1.8 million. The maximum CAP loan that you could receive was $554,800. The Mississippi Development Authority has asked that you publicly acknowledge that you have the funds in place to make this project whole. I have talked with your, Public Utilities Director, Mr. Terry Kemp. He assures me that there is a plan in place to make this project complete. So you have a resolution in front of you committing the matching funds to this project.
Discussion. Alderman Little. Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the commitment to Mississippi Capital Improvements Revolving Loan Program CAP to be derived from current and future water fees and revenue in the Water Enterprise Fund, and upon approval of said project by the Mississippi Development Authority as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passed. Thank you, Ms. Benson. The next matter you have before you is a consideration of the resolution for appointing 2016 voting delegate and 2 alternates for the city of Starkville, the MML conference. We have to do this by resolution, memorialized in the minutes. In the past, for the past several years, Alderman Vaughn has been our voting delegate. And I can't remember honestly if we've kept the same alternates or not, but we need to fill out this resolution so that we can vote at the Mississippi Municipal League.
Ma'am, may I be recommended?
Alderman Wynn.
I have it filled out, and Alderman Vaughn has always done it since I've been on the board, so he will be our voting delegate if he doesn't mind. And our first alderman is Alderman Carver, and the second alderman will be Alderman Little.
All right, so is
I
that
have
a
a
motion to approve? Motion is, go ahead.
Okay. Move to approve the resolution appointing 2016 voting delegates for the city of Starkville during the Mississippi Municipal League Summer Conference in Biloxi, Mississippi, being Alderman Vaughn as a voting delegate, Alderman Carver as a first alternate, Alderman Little as a second alternate.
And have you reduced that to writing?
I have some.
Since it has been reduced to writing, and I have placed it with the city clerk without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing no objection, do I hear a second to the motion? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Wynn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, do I, seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Wynn.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is a discussion and consideration of the Series 2016 AGO $3 million public improvement bond resolution and preliminary official statement.
May I be recognized, Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the resolution directing the issuance of general obligation public improvement bonds Series 2016A of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, in the principal amount of $3 million to raise money for the purpose of acquiring, renovating, equipping, and furnishing of the then-present City Hall building and associated real and personal property, including without limitation the repair, patching, overlay, and striping of the building's parking lot located 101 East Lampkin Street in Starkville, Mississippi, to house and facilitate the operation of the Starkville Police Department for related purposes, prescribing the form and incidence of said bonds, providing for the levy of tax for the payment thereof, providing for the sale of said bonds, making provisions for maintaining the tax-exempt status of the bonds, authorizing a bond issuance policy, authorizing a bond rating, approving and authorizing distribution of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the execution, distribution of an official statement, authorizing the execution of a continuing disclosure certificate, acknowledging and authorizing the execution of post-issue compliance procedures and for related purposes. And this is the bond resolution as presented at the table by the city attorney in this reduced writing.
The motion has been reduced to writing, and it's been read, and it's been placed with the city clerk. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion. The city attorney's asked to be recognized.
And Board, the reason it's as presented at the table is there were 2 very minimal changes from the draft that was presented over the weekend. They're the same change, they're just on 2 separate pages. The first is on page 3. Added to the definition of project cost is an exclusion for costs related to the relocation of the police department during the renovation of the old city hall. And that same exclusion is also inserted on page 38 under the definition of project costs.
Explain that.
Sure. To eliminate any ambiguity of what is a project cost, what's an authorized project cost, and what is not an authorized project cost. This makes clear that relocation expenses related to the police department moving out of City Hall to go somewhere else while the old City Hall is being renovated are not included in the bond proceeds.
Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak?
I guess that was what my question was going to be. What were the changes, and then what was the plan as far as I voted against the City Hall plan, the renovation total cost on there, but what was the plan for where we were going to put the police department in the meantime? And what is the time frame that we're going to have to house them?
It's going to be about a 10 to 11 month construction project, and I think the bulk of the rest of your board business agenda is related to deciding how you're going to relocate them. The only thing that the bond documents do with that change is they clearly and unequivocally do not allow bond proceeds to pay for those expenses, so you'll have to pay for those expenses out of the general fund. Discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Nay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, the motion passes. And the next matter is the discussion and consideration of 2016 GO issuance B, $2.4 million public improvement bond. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the
Wait. We have to go through a procedure before we start the motion.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The city attorney's asked to be recognized.
I got you, go ahead.
City Clerk, was any protests filed in your office related to this proposed bond issuance?
There were no protests filed
And that was at what time today?
as of 5 p.m. today.
Thank you.
Is there anyone now wishing to protest the document? Seeing no protest, Alderman Perkins, you may be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the resolution directing the issuance of general obligation public improvement bonds series 2016B of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, in the principal amount of $2,400,000 to raise money for the purpose of acquiring, renovating, equipping, and furnishing of the old city hall building and associated real and personal property, including without limitation the repair, patching, overlay, and striping of the building's parking lot located 101 East Lampkin Street in Starkville, Mississippi, to house and facilitate the operation of the Stark Police Department for related purposes, prescribing the form and incidence of said bonds, providing for the levy of taxes for the payment thereof, providing for the sale of said bonds, making provision for maintaining the tax-exempt status of the bonds, authorizing a bond issuance policy, authorizing a bond rating, approving and authorizing distribution of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the execution and distribution of an official statement, authorizing the execution of a continuing disclosure certificate, acknowledging and authorizing the execution of post-issue compliance procedures, and for related purposes. And this is the resolution is presented to table by our city attorney.
Motion has been read, it's been reduced to writing, it's been placed with the city clerk without objection. I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing no objection, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I will make a very, very brief comment. Now that we have officially passed the petition point on this bond issuance, and that is just that for the last quarter century, I don't think there is a single issue that has dominated the city agenda like this issue has. And there have been many times throughout that 25-year period that have been tragic, hard to watch, but I think everybody who lives in this community, who is now officially part of this process since it has passed through the petition phase, needs to take a deep breath and just give yourself a pat on the back, because the community has persevered through all of the difficulties getting this project off the ground. And there would have been many, many opportunities to just not talk about it anymore because it became so difficult to talk about. I believe it's a credit to the community that this project remained a part of the public agenda as long as it did, and the community didn't quit. And there is something to be said for perseverance and overcoming. And it's worthwhile to recognize that tonight, with the passage of these bonds, this community has persevered and it has overcome. And that's a credit to everybody. Job well done, Starkville. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? City Attorney.
And Board, the as presented aspect of this document is the same as the other in that relocation costs are excluded from the project cost definition on pages 3 and 38. And additionally, paragraph 7 in the finding of facts on page 5 states unequivocally that there will only be a 1 mil increase to fund this issuance, and that 1 mil increase will roll off immediately after these bonds are paid off.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Nay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Nay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this motion passes. Alderman Perkins, did you wish to?
No, sir. No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The next matter you have before you is a discussion of a temporary location for police department personnel. Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you so much. Mr.
Alderman
Clemens,
Maynard.
will you please come
Hold on,
forward?
Alderman Maynard. Alderman Maynard.
Excuse me, 1 minute. I just want to make sure I voted yay on that last one. I was one of the 2 against, right?
The clerk, I'll ask the clerk to respond if that's how she recorded it.
Have you voted in the affirmative?
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Nguyen, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. If you will you pull up those images of the unused space here? Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, I want to say first, I want to begin by thanking a few of our city employees who, without their assistance, I would not have been able to bring this measure forward. I want to begin by thanking our building inspector, Jorna Williams, whom I called up, along with Mr. Joel Clemens himself of the technology department. And we met with Chief Nichols about possible drawing and how we could create this space into a temporary space of about 10 months for the members of the police department to have a safe and adequate work environment with ample space. Fire Chief Yarborough, I say thanks to you when I heard that the police department wanted to possibly use your fire station number 5. Although I knew where fire station number 5 was, visited that space, I wanted to see it again. I called you that evening after 5:30. You and I went to that space. Thank you so much for your assistance with that. Mr. Herman Peters, who so graciously worked with Chief Nichols' staff as it relates to some space that they needed, I say thank you so much. Ms. Tammy Carlisle, our executive assistant to the board, who has helped me immensely with this, cleaning up until 5:30 yesterday. At 7 o'clock, we were on the telephone again. Chief Nichols, your assistant, Ms. Donna Lott, who assisted me, and learned about the complex communication systems there at the police department. I would learn that there are 5 lines, a private line for the chief and 4 lines for the public. Their communication systems are very complex. Also want to thank Airport Director Mr. Rodney Lincoln, who assisted the chief and his department with some potential space. And secondly, last but not least, I want to thank 2 people who assisted me, our mayor and our city clerk. They assisted me by looking for some available funding that we had to try and bring this matter forward. I say thank you all for your assistance. Tonight, in my resolution, I will be asking for renovation of that space and to allow our police department to move into this building with us for approximately 10 months. We identified 3, the mayor and his city clerk, identified 3 possible funding sources for that. The city clerk and I met about 2 weeks ago. She gave me that information and gave me my numbers yesterday. They were from the mayor's miscellaneous. His budget had $9,505.08. Technology budget has a total of $56,028.44. I would like to take $8,000 of that. I will not take any from the mayor's budget as I didn't need any. And the building fund here presently has a total of $35,658.43. I would like to take an additional $15,850 for that. That brings the total amount of my project to a total of $23,850. $4,950 would be for air conditioning. $2,500 would be for electrical. $3,400 would be for the construction of the chief's office. I had to learn that whether it is a police chief here or elsewhere, they have to have sufficient space for privacy purposes for their briefings or what have you. That is crucial in criminal justice with law enforcement. Chief Nichols didn't tell me. I didn't ask him anything about this because for political purposes, I did not want him to think that I needed his assistance to bring this forward in any way, and it was out of respect for him. The cubicles would be rented at a total of $5,000. And again, that $8,000 would come for our technology budget. That total again is $23,850. I would be asking the police department, should you come, bring all of your furniture? That means that they'll use their existing furniture. This will be at no cost to our city. Okay. This plan meets the building's architect approval. We already have secured fiber here. For the police, in order wherever they move, they have to have access to secured fiber. For without that, for communications purposes, it could put them at risk. It could be a breach in their security. The cleaning services of our building would be used to clean that space. So that means that our city wouldn't be out of any cleaning expenses for that department. Access to our postal machines, Chief Nichols and his secretary would be able to use those as they are already set up here. Our city would not pay any additional costs for utilities and water because they would be here in our building. The move for the PD is so different from moving from one home to another. Very complex communication systems, 5 telephone lines, storage of evidence, crime scene information, weapons and guns must be stored properly. I learned that the police chiefs receive briefings that are confidential and must have a level of privacy and workspace. These are components that must be considered. Ms. City Clerk, on yesterday, will you verify that you presented me with 3 documents, and that was the budget for the mayor, which I will take none of that, ask for none of that, a total of $56,028.44. That is from the technology department, and our building fund has a total of $35,658.43. Is that correct? Thank you so much. Okay. Having said that, Mayor, members of the board, I have a resolution tonight that I'll be presenting. Ms. City Clerk, if you will you make these adjustments as I go along with the reading of it? My motion, move approval of the resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi. I'm sorry, before I read my motion, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me read my resolution. Whereas the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, acting for and on behalf of the city, hereby find and determine the adjudicated as follows. The Starkville Police Department currently occupies the old City Hall building located at 101 East Lampkin Street in Starkville, Mississippi. Number 2, the board has approved $5.4 million in general obligation bonds to renovate the old City Hall to serve as a permanent and future home of the Starkville Police Department. Number 3, construction is scheduled to commence in July 26 to renovate the old City Hall for that purpose. This construction will displace the Starkville Police Department from the old City Hall. Number 4, Starkville's new City Hall, located at 110 West Main Street, contains approximately 2,300 square feet of unused space on its 2nd floor. Starkville employee Joyner Williams presented to the board during its recess meeting on May 17, 2016, a plan to finish out that space for use by certain members of the Starkville Police Department while the old City Hall is being renovated. The plan contained an estimate of, and at that time, Mr. Williams appeared before us and it was $33,000. We have reduced that substantially, being $23,850. The city has available funding from 3 budget sources to cover the $23,850. I've excluded the mayor's miscellaneous item, technology line, funds left over from City Hall light fixtures. The architect who designed the City Hall has reviewed and no objection to the plan presented by Joyner Williams. The temporary relocation of certain members of the Starkville Police Department at City Hall will provide a security presence for the building. Now therefore it be resolved by the board as follows. $23,850 shall be allocated from the city's budget to finish out approximately 2,300 square feet of space on the second floor of the new City Hall for use by Starkville police personnel while the old City Hall is being renovated. These funds will come from the following sources in the amounts of technology, $8,000, remaining funds from City Hall light fixtures, $15,850. The funding for this project shall not exceed $23,850. Section 2, the city shall use these funds to prepare the subject space for occupancy by certain members of the Starkville Police Department substantially consistent with the plans and specifications presented by Joyner Williams during the recess meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen on May 17, 2016. Section 3, after the space is prepared, certain members of the Starkville Police Department to be determined in the sole discretion of Police Chief Frank Nichols shall occupy that space until Old City Hall is fully cleared for reoccupancy following renovations to it. Section 4, after the old City Hall is renovated and cleared for reoccupancy, and any and all members of the Starkville Police Department then occupying that second floor of City Hall shall exit that space and return to Old City Hall. Section 5, any subsequent occupancy of the 2,300 square feet of space on the second floor of City Hall by any other person or entity shall be determined at a future time in the sole discretion and authority of the board. I will present my motion at this time. Motion, move approval of the resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi regarding the relocation of members of the Starkville Police Department to the second floor of the new City Hall while the old City Hall is being renovated for use by the Police Department.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve, and do you have the resolution with changes that you read?
Yes, I do.
All right, to approve of the resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi regarding the relocation of members of the Starkville Police Department to the second floor of the new City Hall while the old City Hall is being renovated for use by the Police Department, as read at the table and reduced to writing by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
It is.
And I'm placing a copy of the writing with the city clerk. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Again, I just want to thank everyone and want what is best for our city as we move forward. And I hope that this measure passes tonight and we be able to put the members of our police department here. I yield the floor at this time.
Okay. All right, Alderman Vaughn, I'm going to make a couple comments before I open the floor. And that is, there's only two issues that I think I have with the resolution as it stands. The first one is a technical, clerical issue, and that is the fund that's being referenced is the municipal building fund in the general budget. That's funding that was placed in the general budget. It's not related to light fixtures. So I think it's probably worth clarifying, just to change references to that to municipal building fund.
Okay. Ms. City Clerk, if you will you change that to municipal building fund for me, please?
I'm going to rule that's a clerical change without objection, and I'll just have the city clerk make that change.
Okay, thank you,
Is there any
Mayor.
objection? All right, seeing none, we're going to take that as clerical and just make the change in the document. Then my only other issue is a substantive issue. And I don't think it changes the overall budget for the project, because as I understand it, you've got a total project budget of $15,000 and an $8,000 technology budget. And that issue is, I would advise against framing the office space in the building. And I do agree with the point that you made that the chief needs to be in an office space. Joyner Williams has volunteered to go into a cubicle in the workspace upstairs.
Okay.
And in that event, the chief's assistant can be in a cubicle in that space as well. And the chief can have Joyner's physical office space, which is in close proximity. And that'll keep you from the expense of framing the office space, which is one of the more expensive items in the program. And also it keeps you from starting a floor plan without having a complete floor plan. Everything else you're doing, you're not altering the floor space because you don't know what's going to be in there in the future. So this provides you an opportunity. Everything you're putting in there, the duct work and the electrical, are the basics that are going to have to be there whatever you do with the facility in the future. And this way you provide whatever goes in there the opportunity to start with a clean floor
Let's
plan.
make those changes.
Okay.
And thank
So
you,
then,
Mayor.
the only place to make that change would be, it'd be in section 2.
It is.
Would you be comfortable, let's see, just striking the reference to May 17, 2016? Because I guess that relates back to all
Or
this.
you could say May 17, 2016, comma, as amended tonight. Eliminating frame notification for chief stops, however you phrase it.
Okay, let's see. Lee, why don't we just change it to substantially consistent with plans and specifications as discussed at the June 7th, 2016 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
I accept that. Yes, let's make that change to it.
Without objection, the change is being added by the city clerk. Right. And with those changes, I recommend approval of the resolution. Alderman Vaughn.
Chief, can I see you a minute? I just got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Have you had the privilege and the luxury to go out and find a place for yourself? Have you had that privilege? Have we given you that time? Because it seemed like to me that I never heard you say anything. I heard you say that you and your guys had went nowhere to look for nothing. It just seemed like the board, the mayor, and the board just had taken that from you. But would you answer that question? Did you have the luxury and the privilege to go and find a temporary residence for you and your employees?
Yes, sir. We did look. We looked for places that we didn't have to spend money that we weren't already spending.
Was it suitable for you all?
We can make do with it. I put it to you that way. Even if we got to work out our cars, we're gonna still do our job. So we just wanted to go to the take the path of less resistance because we know this is in the middle of a budget season, and we didn't want to spend a lot of money that we don't have, and I know the city don't have. So we just tried to find the best that we could.
I know whatever you did, the board still had to approve it. I know whatever decision y'all came with, the board still had to approve it. But it's just my feeling that somewhere you've been left out. It just feel like the way the thing's been taken charge of, seemed like you were left out, and it just seemed like it just whatever we give you, this is what you take, and that's the feeling I'm getting from this.
Well, I appreciate you, and we'll work out whatever.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
All right, I've got Little, then Wynn, then Carver, and that's just how I saw you. And I got Walker because you came in after those three. Yeah.
So this will not be the only space you're going to be working at. What other spaces will you be utilizing for the department?
We have the two substations, which is located on Long Street and on Louisville Street. We also have Fire Station 5. We have lease space that we're leasing from Synergetics that we'll be working out of, and I've worked it out with Mr. Herman Peters to use the annex building down next to the Sportsplex.
So it'll be all on city property, basically?
Yes, sir.
Upstairs, will this just be the command center, basically?
Basically, it'll be me, the two command officers, which are the two captains, my secretary, accreditation manager, and my public information officer.
With this use of this facility upstairs, will that complete your needs for the department for the 10 months going forward, assuming it takes 10 months, will that suffice?
If we don't get this, it's going to suffice. You know, could we use this space? Yeah. Could we use additional space? Yes. You know, because right now I still got lieutenants that are street officers. They're not going to have a home, but they don't need a home. They need a home, but we can work out of what we got, if that makes sense. What I'm saying. You know, I'm not going to put up a big fuss about should we be here or there. We're going to do what we got to do, regardless.
When you say street officers, they're patrolling.
Yes, sir.
They're not sitting in an office every day.
Lieutenants are administrative and they get out of the street, so they do require offices, but we can make do.
Further discussion?
I want to
Alderman
make sure
West.
that we set this. I did contact you, and you met with Joyner, myself, and the technology director, Mr. Joel, and I asked you for your input on this space. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
I did. And Chief, again, I didn't want to bring you into anything and it looked political and put you, so that's the reason I didn't contact you anymore with anything else. And
Yes, ma'am, I
tried to be
understand.
understanding and respectful of that. And I heard you say that you all can work anywhere, you all can work out of your cars. That's actually not true, because if we have residents in this city, we need an available space that they'd be able to come to the police department for whatever it is that they need.
That's the reason we have the substations.
Okay, but let me say this, Chief. If I were visiting here from Atlanta, I would know where a substation is, but if somebody said, hey, the police station is over there on Main Street, I know where to find that is, but I don't know what, assuming I were not from here, I would know where to find a substation. I would be saying, well, where is the substation?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we have residents here that probably don't know where your substations are.
True.
Okay, like I had residents to tell me they didn't know where fire station number 5 was. Most people don't even know where fire station number 5 is. So we want to look at it from the aspect of, if someone were visiting here from Chicago and needed the assistance of our police personnel, somebody could say, hey, they're located over there on Main Street. So, thank you so much, and I
Yes,
yield the
ma'am.
floor. Thank you, Chief Nichols. Mayor, I yield
Alderman
the floor.
Carver, then Alderman Walker.
Back to my original question I gave, what was the plan for this 6 months ago, and why are we just now addressing this? I mean, we're getting caught in a bind, but it's just something that was just not thought about previously.
No, they've been making plans for several months.
I've got several questions. So, as of right now, we've got the annex, Synergetics, Fire Station 5, 2 substations, and then potentially the City Hall floor. And would that be, back to Alderman Little's question, will that be sufficient for everything and the storage of evidence and everything? Do you think that we can make it happen with that?
Once again, we can make it work if we didn't have that. It's not sufficient. No, sir, it's not. We need additional space. Our evidence, some of the stuff, we're actually going to rent a storage unit to put some of this stuff in, and we got some more space that we're going to put some more files in that we've acquired. So, no, sir, it's never enough space, but we can make it work.
Let me tell you, in a previous employment, I was in Homeland Security Emergency Management. You remember that? And so I worked Katrina. I was there within a day. I was in Louisville in tornadoes within a day. I was in Matheson. I've seen over 200 to 300 people set up within 24 hours. So when you say, can it happen? You know, yes, it can happen. Is it sufficient? Probably not. Maintain at least for 5 years Katrina and something that doesn't even equate to what's upstairs for command staff. If this were to happen, I would suggest that the most sensitive of data, collection of evidence, things like that would be here, because I think it would be the most secure of anything you've listed. Secondly, I would probably go on out of a limb and suggest after this that you maintain a presence here. I love your community-oriented policing ideas. I think that's a great idea. Having another officer or 2 up here, we've discussed a lot of times the security of this building. Having a police present up here on Main Street, why not? Make it a 3rd substation. You could keep an officer or 2 here afterwards. That may be, I see it as a great idea that that's up there. By accident or design, it's there. This may just expedite the process for City Hall as a whole when y'all pull out in 10 or 11 months, that building is one step further for the use that we could use it for later. And so I guess that was my biggest question was, of those 5 or 6 facilities that you've listed, you know, I would, I guess, recommend that your office, of course, would be here.
Yes, sir.
And then of 2,300 square feet, I'm just wondering, I've listed, I heard you list yourself, an assistant, not patrol officer, lieutenants, about 6, I came up with 6 or 7 people. Do you think you could fit 20 in there?
Easily. Also, you know, of course, we're going to have a space up here to take reports, just like Ms. Wynn is alluding to. We'll have an officer, we can call them in off the street to meet somebody here if they come in for to have a report taken. And if we got the personnel, I wouldn't mind having somebody down here out in the lobby to direct people to help also with the receptionist here.
Okay. And then my last question was going to be maybe from the transportation of prisoners, and how does it work here coming to and from court? So let's say somebody gets arrested and before they go to jail on Friday night or something, do they go to your office? They go to police station now. Where would that happen if you're housed in City Hall, or if you're housed in a private sector building somewhere, or Synergetics? How would that change your flow of
It really wouldn't, because if we're going to arrest somebody and book them, you normally take them to the county jail anyway.
Okay.
So we'll book them. We can book them down there and they can bond out from there. Instead of us bringing them to the police department and bonding out, we can book them at the jail.
Okay. Good deal.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Walker.
Chief, this maybe addresses a little bit of Alderman Vaughn's comment, I think. First of all, you all and your staff do an excellent job.
Thank you.
But I don't know how the police station works. I couldn't begin to tell you how to make it work better and who needs to be where and staffed. I would leave that solely to you and your command staff discretion in determining what staff and who and how many need to be located where and where files need to be kept. I think that is clearly a decision that needs to rest on you and your command shoulder staff. I am supportive of this motion that Alderman Wynn has made, especially with the amendments that have been made. I've also heard you say, I think quite eloquently, that you are staying out of this process, and if we made all of you work out of one police car, you would find a way to make it happen.
Yes, sir.
I think that is commendable and admirable. I do not think that is in the best interest of our city long term. I believe that you have said that you could certainly use more space. I think we need to listen to what that says. If we want to talk about putting politics aside, put politics aside and let's approve this motion, but let's also approve free space that is being given to the police department for a temporary period of time to make this transition as smooth, as efficient, and as effective as humanly possible in a time of transition for the SPD. I think you are being very wise and very smart in how you're handling that. And so I'm going to say it for you. I think you need more space. You said it. I got to have more space. How you use that space, I believe, is totally up to you and your command staff. I think it would be short-sighted of this board to not look at available space that is being made available to us to accommodate the needs. If, Chief, you were to have this additional space that's on the next agenda item, would that adequately and sufficiently provide the space that you need to effectively manage the SPD during the construction period of the new police station?
Yes, sir, without a doubt.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Mr. Honorable Police Chief.
Vice Mayor.
As you know and others know, that I fully support you, your leadership in your police department.
Yes, sir.
But I want every citizen of the city of Starkville to tune in about what I have to say, because this is a very clear point that I'm going to make from a business perspective. There is no politics in this. It is, in my opinion, Mr. Police Chief, about what the Vice Mayor think is, in his opinion, in the best interest of the city of Starkville. Now, we have the matter at hand that was offered by the Alderman from 2. And on the agenda coming up next is a lease agreement that I have read that the gentleman from 4 just alluded to, that makes available space for your department at no cost to the city of Starkville, Mississippi. The only thing that has to be paid, according to my careful reading of that lease agreement, is the utilities for that. Now, the Vice Mayor is going to support that. Yes, the Vice Mayor is going to support it, and I want everyone to understand under the sound of my voice as to why I'm going to support it. It is my recollection that when we supported that substation on Alfred Perkins Street in Ward 7, that may have made the consent agenda back some year or years ago. That space was donated to the Starkville Police Department.
Yes, sir.
I did not see any problem with that. Matter of fact, to my recollection, Mr. Chief, there was no concern about who the landlord or the property owner was. So why should we get caught up when we need to be, in my opinion, make decisions based upon the best interest of the taxpayers? Now, what was wrong then about accepting space for a police station in Ward 7? Well, according to the official minutes of this city and the voice of this city, which are the minutes, there was no opposition. And then we later moved some minutes later and down 25, now Louisville Street, into Ward 2. You proposed another police station. There was no problem with that.
No, sir.
This honorable mayor and board approved for that because we felt that, in our opinions, that there was a very fine and exemplary gesture for our taxpayers because it was no cost and it proved up to this date to be in the best interest of our great certified retirement city. Now, it doesn't matter to me, in my opinion, because I'm not voting for the property owner, whoever that may be. We got to look at the business side of this thing. What is wrong? I challenge any taxpayer in this city to tell me what is wrong with accepting space that is donated to the city of Starkville. Did we find anything, make a finding of fact when we considered the substation city of Starkville for the police substation in Ward 7? No. Are you aware of anything, Chief?
No, sir.
Has that worked out well?
It has.
Has your security been compromised over there?
Never.
Has the privacy been compromised?
No, sir.
Have you been able to effectively and efficiently carry out the operations of the police department?
Yes, sir.
Has your ability to serve and protect our city been compromised?
Never.
Same questions to Ward 2 substation. Have there been any problems?
No, sir.
Are you aware, Mr. Honorable Police Chief, of any problem that may arise from this proposed location that's being offered to us down in Ward 2 on the south side of, on the west side of Louisville Street?
I see none.
So taxpayers of this great city, the Honorable Police Chief who we have hired to be in charge of the Starkville Police Department is representing to us that he sees no problem with this proposal to make available space for the Starkville Police Department. And my only understanding with reading that lease agreement that we have to pay the utilities and of course 1,000 square feet. In my understanding, Chief, you would only need to put 5 people in that location, right? You're 2. You don't have assistant chief, right?
No, sir.
You put your 2 captains in there, right?
Yes, sir.
You put your administrative secretary.
Yes, sir.
And you put your accreditation officer.
And my public information.
And your public information.
Yes, sir.
You can make do with that.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, if you had that space, Chief, don't you agree with me? That would be all the space that you would need during the period of time from now through April 2017 until that building at 101 East Lampkin Street is fully renovated per the orders of this board.
We can make it work, Vice Mayor.
I understand that, Chief, but that's not my question. My question is, if we approve that lease agreement on Louisville Street, the item coming up next, and defeat this matter that's before us right now, can you make it work until April 2017?
We can make it work.
Yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion.
Mayor, how are the substations manned? I mean, is somebody there every day, all day, or is this something they come in once a week?
The one on Alfred Perkins is manned by my COP unit. The one on Louisville Street is manned from different shifts throughout the night.
So somebody's there every day on the first one?
Yes, sir.
Every day, all day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And here's my you challenge Vice Mayor Perkins, you challenge any citizen, and I am a citizen, to come and the issue I have, first I've heard tonight of, no. The issue I have with it is I didn't know about Synergetics tonight. I have issues with putting sensitive documents in data. If this was the building department or if this was planning department, I would probably not have an issue. But when you start putting guns and drugs and sensitive data and social security numbers and everything else into a private sector building like Synergetics, I have issue with that. I'm gonna finish.
Okay.
I do have issue with that. The first I've heard about it tonight. I don't have an issue with the government building where I feel like we're sufficient and we know when it's manned, when it's patrolled. I asked that about the substations because I may be okay with putting, if you're saying it's manned more frequently than the second one, I feel less heartburn with that. So I guess that was my question. So I need to know what's manned and when. As far as, accepting any kind of what is wrong with accepting free space with a private sector individual? I guess it's not much if it wasn't the police department. I would have issue with it if I have issue with it being the nature of your work. I don't have issue with it if it was, again, the planning department or something that was, not sensitive data. So, thank you.
Chief, I know
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
As far as Synergetics goes, we've been leasing that space since 2006.
Okay. What's in there now?
For our narcotics guys, and we're going to just add the investigators down there since they all work together.
Okay, so they're already in there.
We've been in there since 2006.
Is anything in there sensitive?
There's a lot of sensitive stuff in there.
Yeah, but it is manned 24/7 and locked down?
No, but we have cameras and we have an alarm system, and somebody has keys to it.
So the only new private sector addition would be this second
Right,
next item coming up.
Right, which is going to be the same space that we occupied, the narcotics guys occupied first, and we moved to a bigger space.
They occupied the second one we're fixing to talk about before?
They've
Okay,
already
when was that?
occupied.
When was that?
They started in 2006.
Okay.
Before this board took office.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Under my predecessor, he approved it.
Thank you.
That's good to tell you.
Under your predecessor. Thank you.
And Chief, I know it's the case with Ms. Brule's property. I assume it's the case with Synergetics as well. When we go into that space, we rekey the lock, and we're the only one in possession of the key. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, right now, Mayor.
Ms. Brule confirmed that to me
Okay.
in a telephone call, so I know that's how that space would operate. Is that how the Synergetic space operates as
That's
well?
how it operates.
Okay.
They have to notify us to even go into their space, which they own.
Yeah, and in the case of Ms. Brule, she would not have a key to
Right.
the space. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
4 yea, 3 nay.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of the South Park Plaza lease. Alderman Perkins, would you like to introduce?
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve of the South Park Plaza lease agreement as presented. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I will make some comments prior to opening the floor, and these will be brief. I believe this is an obvious decision, as you've heard the chief state that this is space he certainly can use, and the price is very, very good on the space. It is nothing, and as I just described a minute ago, it will be in complete control of the police force at the time it's being used. And the only other thing, in addition to recommending approval, that I think it's appropriate to say is thank you, Ms. Brule. Ms. Brule was here in the audience at our last board meeting and heard the conversation about needing space for potential relocation. And she sent me a text message shortly after the meeting, and she said she had a tenant that would be vacating her commercial strip center on Louisville Street and would be glad to offer 1,000 square feet at no charge to the city during the relocation process. And Ms. Brule, I think that was very generous of you. Thank you very much. Further discussion?
Mayor, may
Alderman Wynn.
I have the floor? And I will touch this as gingerly as I possibly can. I always tell my residents in Ward 2 that you have full transparency from me. I cannot, will not support this measure as it relates to that property at South Park. This board, by a vote of 5-2, voted not to reappoint Ms. Spruill, and since that time, Ms. Spruill has filed 4 ethics investigations against the members of this board. I found it ironic that the vice mayor, that members of this board trusted to be our leader, went all the way around the world tonight to talk about that space, but he neglected to tell you all who the owner would be. For the residents that I represent in Ward 2, and I came to your door, you told me what you expected of me. I've gotten here and done it, and that has been one of them that I have listened to you on. I will not walk away from that tonight, and I'm asking the other aldermen who have the same views that I do from their constituents to do the same. There's an alderman here at this board who has a prestigious, prominent member in his ward, and he has offered to provide space to the police department also. I yield the floor at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion?
Mayor, let me briefly say, just want to make a general comment so we can move on. Mr. Mayor, basically, you know, as I mentioned very clearly, meticulously earlier, that, you know, the decision to support this matter is purely a business decision. That's what we need to understand. As a business person, as a member of this governing body, you know, when you handle taxpayers' monies, you have to have a very watchful eye with it in doing so. So a decision to support this matter has nothing to do with no prior or past of this board, in my opinion. I look at every matter on its merits, and I look at it based upon the totality of the facts and circumstances. So clearly, just make sure no one is wavering from what I said earlier and getting off track and going out of bounds with this. Voting for this lease has nothing to do with any prior or past action of the board. This is all about economics, dollars and cents, and the best interest as the vice mayor sees it. I yield the floor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none. Alderman Maynard? Alderman Maynard, you have the floor. You have the floor.
I would just like to reiterate what the vice mayor said and what you said, and thank Ms. Spruill for the donation of this space. It's easily a $12,000 to $15,000 in-kind donation that she provided the city, that she could just as easily rent this space out to somebody else. I appreciate her providing the space to our police department. And I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Nay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Nay.
Alderman Little.
Nay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, the motion fails. The next matter on the agenda is an update on the status of sanitation truck purchases authorized May 17th, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, very briefly, Honorable Finance Director, has those trucks been obtained?
Yes, sir. We've never obtained those 2 trucks.
And do you know why?
Ms. Gandy has contacted the dealers in Jackson, and they no longer have those trucks at state contract price.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. I have reduced to writing. I move that the board's order dated of May 17, 2016, authorizing the Sanitation Environmental Service Director to purchase 2 pickup trucks at state contract from Gary Daniels in the amount of $47,578 is hereby rescinded, and that the City Finance Director is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks for the Sanitation Environmental Services Department for use by the Landscape Division. And she's familiar with and this been reduced to writing.
Motion has been made, it's been read and reduced to writing. It's been placed with the city clerk without objection. I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing no objection, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Alderman Carver is not
Oh,
present.
I'm sorry. Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yeah.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. And with apologies to everybody who's here waiting on the zoning matter, I'm going to, without objection, take us into a brief recess. I expect that to be a fairly lengthy discussion, and we've been here for over 2 hours already. Without objection, seeing no objection, we'll stand in brief recess. Meeting will now come back to order. Alderman Maynard, are you with us? Alderman Maynard.
Yes, sir.
All right. The next matter before us is the discussion and consideration of an appeal request by Wendy Woods of Christian Changes for the denial of rezoning request RZ 1604 by the Planning and Zoning Commission to rezone one parcel at 300 Yellow Jacket Drive from R1 single family to B1 buffer. Mr. Sanders, Mr. Haviland, could you come forward and introduce?
RZ 16-04 is with the rezoning request. Back up. The applicant has requested an appeal of the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission to deny the request to rezone 300 Yellow Jacket Drive from R1 single family to B1 buffer district. On May 10, 2016, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-3 to deny the request for rezoning based on a lack of change in condition in the area. The applicant is in the process of purchasing the property to relocate her business, Christian Changes Counseling and Recovery Center, into the existing house. That type of use will ultimately require additional use in a B1 buffer district. The property to the north, as you can see in the slide, is currently zone B1 and is being used as a storage facility. The property to the east and to the south are zoned R1 and R3A, are used for single family. That's these other 3 slides. And then the property to the west is zoned R1, but is currently used by Starkville High School. 44 property owners were noticed for the appeal request by mail. An ad was placed in Starkville Daily News on May 23rd, 2016. A sign was posted on the property. As of this date, the planning office has received 3 phone calls and 4 letters against the request, and 5 letters supporting this request were included in the applicant's statement. On June 1st, 2016, a petition against the appeal was received by city staff. The petitioner represents 13 of the 26 property owners within 160 feet of the subject property. On this map, you can see all the areas that are colored are the properties that are within the 160-foot line, which is the dark black line that's outside the red line. The ones that have the hatch slanted on them are the ones that the property owner's names appear in the petition. The chart in the top left shows the total number of the petitions. If you take all the properties completely around, it's 50%. If you look just to the north, 33, to the east is 33, to the south, 100, to the west is 30. Would you like to weigh in at this point?
Sure. All right, so our ordinances and state law have requirements for a supermajority vote if a threshold of petitions is achieved. In this case, the Community Development Department has just presented the petitions that have been received. I'll now ask the city attorney to opine as to whether the threshold for a supermajority has been triggered.
Mr. Haviland, are you making a finding of fact that the supermajority provision has been triggered based on the protest that you've shown on your map right there? I concur, Mayor.
And
3/5 vote.
Have y'all finished your introductory comments? All right. Before I open the floor to questions and comments from the board, please excuse me. We have a member of the Mayor's Youth Council who has been trying to make an introduction tonight so that she can fulfill her requirement for the year for the council. Could you please stand and do you mind introducing yourself? Thank you, Ms. Logan, and you have fulfilled your requirement. And I do apologize for doing that in the middle of an item introduced, but she had asked me at the recess, and she has waited patiently to introduce herself, so I did not want her to have to wait through the entire matter. Now, at this time, we'll hear questions and comments from the members of the board for the community development staff. Alderman Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see this Christian change in this Christian center. I look at the things that we go in the world and all the peer pressure on our kids and all the peer pressure on people in the world, and I notice that we have a whole lot of counseling places, but you don't see too many Christian counseling. And one thing came to my mind when I seen this is how far this Christian counseling center is from the school. And when our kids are under so much peer pressure, and this is in walking distance from the school, and it really touched my heart to see that this gonna be this close to the school. And I really appreciate Ms. Wendy for coming here with this and trying to get this passed, because we don't know how many lives that we can save by trying to turn a child from another way to the right way. And by this, and it's so easy for a child to go the wrong way or a person to go the wrong way without the proper counseling. And by this being so close to the school, I think this is a great idea to help some young child or some person to change their life from one way to the right way, to the straight and narrow. But most of all, I think about Miss Betty, because I grew up with Miss Betty, her kids, and my mother-in-law, she raised them. I think about that a lot. And she was a missionary. That's what she done most of her life, missionary in Honduras and throughout the city of Starkville. And I just know if this passed, she would take a look from heaven and just say, amen. Mr. Mayor, with being said that, I would like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
We've got to have a public hearing. We've got to have a public hearing first.
Come on.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the public hearing or public comment portion of the public hearing. And we do this a little different than ordinance public hearings. We'll first offer the appellant the opportunity to make a maximum 15-minute presentation on why you think the property should be rezoned. And you may reserve some time for rebuttal at the end, but since you won't have an opportunity to hear any comments made against by adjacent property owners. And then I'll offer the adjacent property owners or the public at large a maximum of 15 minutes to offer any comments in opposition to the appellant. So at this time, the appellant or a representative may come forward and make a presentation. And if you wish to reserve time for rebuttal, just tell me how much you'd like to reserve.
I'm Julie Brown, and I'm here on behalf of Wendy Woods and also the Josie family with an appeal from the board of the zoning commission, and the vote, as I said, was 4-3. We had a tie vote and put the chairman in a bad spot, had to break the tie. It's an interesting situation, and there are not very many buffer zones zoned in Starkville. It's a unique thing. It seemed to be the best solution. And I'll be honest with you, there's two pieces to this. You first have to change the zoning, and then we were asking for a conditional use. The zoning commission did not get to the conditional use because until we got the zoning changed, that was moot. So what's interesting though in this particular situation, and I won't preach to the choir, you know what's required. We have to show a change in the immediate neighborhood and also a public need. Well, I'm on a double-edged sword here. I really can't talk about the public need for this without kind of getting into what the use will be. As Representative Vaughn was talking about, we have to kind of talk about that a little bit. But that we had a lot of problems with the buffer zone with the neighbors, and I would like to point out they did file a petition. We're a little at the petition doesn't say what they just said we don't like it. It didn't say what they're opposing to this. And at the zoning hearing, I will tell you there was a lot of discussion about trees and trees being a buffer zone and the old trees there, and they're concerned that there'd be a big commercial development there with trees. So, and there was also discussion with the homeowners when there's some way we could compromise. So I believe tonight, taking all of the things that we learned at that hearing, we're hoping that this appeal will help you make a decision that will be best for the city of Starkville, and of course vote in my favor. What I would, if you don't mind, I do have a deed that I could hand out and pass out if I may approach. If you wouldn't mind taking one and passing it.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I'll get into, of course, you have to have two things to get the change. Right now, this is, R1, and there has been a substantial changes in this neighborhood, but in order to see that, and I don't know if y'all have an opportunity, we'd ask you if you could drive down Louisville Street, take a turn onto Yellow Jacket Ride, and just see. And if you want to imagine it, back when the boys are here tonight, when they were little and they were raised there, this is a rural community around this. And if you look at the diagram now, and you can see the red area there, that lighting's a little bad, but that's where the house is, and it's almost 5 acres. And what's happened is, if you look around there, there's nothing near that size, anywhere near there. It's hard to find 5 acres in this city, and it's right there, stuck in between a dense residential community, which is becoming more and more dense to the east and also to the south. And then if you look to the west, it's become really industrial and commercial. And this sits essentially as a buffer. I mean, it almost has become a buffer by itself. But back when the Josies were there, the high school did not have that giant sports complex there. I don't think they could sit on the front lawn and watch a baseball game or hear the football team cheering and all like that. And across the street, there were not apartments, nor were there storage lockers. Further on down, and like I said, if you turn on that street, there's metal buildings, gravel parking lots. It's just real industrial. But once you hit the Josie property and see that beautiful house sitting in that curb, past that, you do have communities. You have residences, and then denser, more residences as you get to where Yellow Jacket really hits Montgomery. And that's when we've got, there have been zoning changes recently. But what happened is the Josie family kept that house as all this changed around her to where now it's not really usable as a residence. And a lot of this happened over the years, and then Miss Josie just passed away a couple of years ago, and that house is now obsolete. The Josie family would like to keep that house and those beautiful trees and that beautiful spot intact. They tried to sell it, but it's not really marketable as a residence as it is because of the development. And looking across the street, you've got those storage units with no landscaping, and it just doesn't fit as a house anymore. So how can we change that? Well, it really already is a buffer between the denser residential that's happening over there. I think you'll see more of that. And then, of course, when the zoning was changed south of the property and they just put in that new neighborhood, I would like to point out on your petition, the reason you had so many signatures is that Mr. McBride is an owner of several of those lots in that subdivision, and he was able to sign that petition 8 times. So 8 of those signatures are Mr. McBride's. He also has attempted to buy that property from my clients because he wants to develop it just as he has that subdivision. Several developers have offered to buy that house in 4 acres, but it would obliterate all the trees, and of course they'd have to come in for a zoning request then at time, but put, you know, another subdivision there. And if you look at that cul-de-sac to the south of there, that, if you can superimpose it on the Josie lot, you could even put more residences there. The neighbors had worries about trees. Well, if you get a developer in there, believe me, those trees are going to go down. As an R1, the Josies have every right tomorrow to go and cut all those trees down. They do not want that, nor does Windy Woods. So we believe that if there is a substantial change in this whole division there, there's more traffic along that road. If you look at the apartments that are there and the storage units and all of the commercial things that are going on there, the restaurant, the Shaggy Hound, and all of that, there's a lot of traffic. But of course, once you get to the Josie place, then it kind of calms down with a little denser residential thing that goes out in Montgomery. So we believe that that change has been substantial in this neighborhood and that house has become obsolete. Now, the second prong to that is being able to show a substantial need or a public need for this. And if you read my packet, if you had enough caffeine at night maybe to take a look at that, we feel that there are 2 public needs. One is trying to preserve the southernness or the uniqueness of the city of Starkville and not to tear down these homes. It really is neat to see next to Brewski's, so to speak, but that really neat house on the corner. I believe at one time there were 4, 3 are gone. If you look at the high school and you come, they've repurposed and moved that house, that really neat house that now has the art building. I mentioned some others. There's Vitality Spa is now on Main Street in an old house where Bill Stark's office used to be. Starkville has a way of not just throwing things down and paving a parking lot. Let's try to preserve these buildings when we can, and a beautiful, you know, calm spot like that, and repurpose these buildings into something else rather than knocking them down, putting on a metal building and putting a brick facade on it. Or put 20 more houses there that are all cookie cutter like that, which that could happen too. The other need has come, as Alderman Vaughn brought up, there is really a bigger and bigger need with the exponential growth of our city and also the consolidation of the schools. But there's more and more of a need for counseling services. Windy Woods, and we put in here the statistics here, when she first started out, she had a very small building that she was in. And now she went from a 600 square foot office and has moved twice. Now she has a 1,400 square foot building. Her employees have gone from 2 or 3 to 9. She can grow, she's way outgrown her place. She wants more. And this would be a perfect fit. The proximity to the high school, the new consolidation, this is also very close to other schools, Starkville Academy, and also the neighborhoods surrounding it. It is a calm, residential looking environment. The building would stay intact, the trees would stay intact. It fits all of the buffer zone requirements for the parking. There'd be no additional concrete poured in. It really would stay as is. Now, the problem that we had with the zoning committee is the permitted uses. There are a lot of permitted uses for buffer zones that the surrounding residents were very concerned with. And we looked into did some research, and also Attorney Latimer pointed out, we don't know that the Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning Committee can restrict a permitted use. You might be able to agree to do that and tell Wendy, you can't use this for a funeral home or a parking garage or a big utility tower. But once she sells it, it's still a permitted use. So what we've offered, and that's why I've handed you this draft of this deed, but you may not be able to restrict a permitted use as the Board of Aldermen, but the Josie family and Miss Woods can. And so by deed, they've offered to put in the deed restrictions to run with the land, to be binding on her heirs, successors, and or assigns, and that the property would not be able to be used as a rooming house. I don't even know if they have those anymore. Sounds like something out of the Western. No multifamily dwellings greater than 4 families, no mobile homes, mobile home parks, department stores, appliance sales, automotive supply parts, convenience stores, packaged liquor, tobacco, e-cigarette stores, drug stores, or concession stands. So those would be the permitted uses that they would voluntarily restrict for the length of time that that property is there. So, so we feel that we have shown that there is a substantial change, and also that there is a public need not only for the counseling and this type of situation, and as I said, that's a conditional use we'd still have to go to, but it is part of this. But also, as I said, there's a public need, I believe, and it benefits the city of Starkville to try to keep these properties if we can and repurpose them and reuse them. I'd like to rest then and allow the rebuttal time of 5 minutes.
You'll have a maximum of 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Now we'll enter the 15-minute comments in opposition portion of the public hearing. Let me see by show of hands how many people wish to make comments. Can you two decide amongst yourselves how you'd like to split your time? Y'all can just go half and half. We'll do half and half if you don't state otherwise. So you'll have a maximum of 7.5 minutes unless y'all agree otherwise.
I'll be short. I'm a resident in the right next to that cul-de-sac right there. I live at 243 Bentbrook Lane. I'm Adam Weeks. Just moved in there, new resident. I've lived in Starkville my whole life though. But I just wanted to come here today to say that I oppose this appeal. I feel that while this is needed for the city of Starkville, I feel that that location and its close proximity to Starkville High is not probably the best. And also with the B1 buffer zone, what could possibly come in later if this center was not to last as long as we would hope it would. I mean, just as a business itself, I'm a small business owner. I wish no ill will towards anyone that has their own business or center. So just that being said, you have to think about the second and third order effects that could come with passing this or allowing this to happen. Say what is else to move in after that, traffic increase right next to a public school as well. So with all that being said, I just wanted to voice my opposition of this.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Mr. Weeks used a minute. You'll have a maximum of 14 minutes.
I don't need much time. I'm Jerry McBride. I own Skylake Construction. I did not develop the subdivision. I just own the lots. And first of all, I want to talk about changing to B1. I'm a real estate broker, I'm an appraiser, and a general contractor. So we're always looking for B1 because it's wide open. You can just about, if you can get a piece of B1, you can do just about anything you want to do. But the one thing I heard the attorney for the Josies and for Wendy made the statement that in the Planning Commission board, the one thing that they kept repeating was that the Josies were not able to sell that property for residential, or it just wasn't a residential property anymore. And the reason that is because earlier somebody allowed B1 and commercial zoning to change. So now what they want to do is do that to the rest of the residents because they feel like they can't sell it. So two wrongs don't make a right to change the zoning for the Josie estate and affect these other people, including myself. So if what they're wanting to do, is exactly what happened to them years ago, and now they want to do it to the other residents. And it just seems very simple to me. So changing that zoning is only going to do the same thing to the other residents there. That's all I want to say about that. But on the use of the facility, first of all, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 20 years by the grace of God. And what Wendy's doing, I'm 150% for. I mean, I take my hat off to her. I mean, Jesus Christ saved me. My son is 30 years old and got 9 years sobriety, and he wouldn't have got sober if it hadn't been for Jesus Christ. So I understand Christ base, and I told Wendy when she and I talked the first time, this is hard for me to do because what she is doing, I agree 150%. But I know what follows, and I'm only using the terminology that Wendy said to me, was she was a Christian-based aftercare. Aftercare means people that are trying to quit drinking or get off of drugs. They come here for counseling to stay sober, which is you have to have it. The only way to stay sober is to have somebody to help you stay sober, and for Jesus Christ to help you stay sober. But the people that follow people like us in our early days are drug dealers. They're waiting on us to slip. They know we're like I say, we're automatic customers. If they can get us to slip, my son was in 2 rehab centers. He's got many people sober now because he fought through this, and he was in aftercare units. And there were drug dealers there constantly. But to put a aftercare counseling facility that close to those many residences and to that school, it's a great idea, it's just the wrong place. She is doing a great thing. I agree with you, Alderman. If it ain't for Jesus Christ, this country needs more. But this is not the right place. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. McBride, I noticed that you didn't state where you reside. Where do you reside?
I live here. I have a house here. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. I've been here for 4 years.
Which area of town do you reside in?
302 Worley Street.
302 Worley Street. Where is that located?
It's I live beside Kim Stevens. I can't, it's 1 block off of South Montgomery. It's 1 block off Jackson Street. It's, if you go between Bell Lumber Company and drive to the end of that street behind the school, my house is right on the road.
I noticed tonight that you made a lot of comments about this. It says, one instance, you're for Ms. Woods, but it's just not the right place.
I agree.
And I noticed that you said all of your Christian teachings, and this is what mine teach me. You can't run with the devil and walk with God. I yield the floor at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Brown, you have 5 minutes. Oh, well, there is time remaining, yeah. But Judge Mills, would you like to speak? How much time do we have remaining? All right, Judge Mills, you have a maximum of 10 minutes.
I know, maybe just a moment. Just heard this a day or two ago, and the only thing I'd like to say is I've been here 55 years, and every time I go by the Joseph place over there, I have just a wonderful feeling that it's a great asset to the city of Starkville, and thing about it, we see sandwich shops and dress shops going up every day, but when have you seen a place like Dr. Joseph's? And the people drive through Starkville, there's a world of folks that come to Starkville for different occasions, and they drive down Yellow Jacket Drive, and they can't help but admire such a beautiful place. And I'd hate like everything to see something happen that developers come in and push it down and build another apartment complex or something. So I just appreciate you giving us consideration of limiting what could be done with that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Mills. All right, Ms. Brown, you'll have your 5-minute rebuttal.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the board, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your consideration. I want to speak very briefly to let you know that this is a personal investment for me. I've been a Starkville resident for 26 years. I've been a mental health therapist for 22 years. And I have been in community mental health for 11 and in private practice right here in Starkville for another 11 years. I'm not going anywhere, but I have addressed the citizens' concerns. Just as Ms. Brown has addressed the need and the change, I have addressed the citizens' concerns in the deed restrictions that are presented before you. And as Ms. Brown suggested or shared, those deed restrictions are not contingent upon me, my successors, my estate, or the Josie family themselves. Those deed restrictions apply to the land, and we have all agreed to those. I want to share or rebut a moment for some of the things that were shared by Mr. McBride. In my 22 years as a mental health professional, I have served in numerous capacities. In all of those 22 years, not once have I had to call for law enforcement for a drug dealer or suspicious drug activity. I would also present to the board that unbeknownst to many of the public, MASEP, which is the Mississippi Alcohol Substance Education Program, they provide your DUI classes for first-time offenders. Those first-time offenders who do not come to me, they go to Millsaps Vocational Center, which is on Starkville School property. Also, unbeknownst to the public, there is a Department of Mental Health certified behavioral health center operated by the University of Mississippi Medical Center right across the street from Starkville High School in the metal buildings where Kids Spot Therapy used to be. We are not Department of Mental Health certified. If we were, I couldn't be Christian-based. I am not Department of Corrections certified. I couldn't be Christian-based. I am not Division of Medicaid certified. I could not be Christian-based. I entered into private practice after 11 years in the public sector to do what I believe God has called me to do, and that is serve as a Christian counseling ministry. Not taking up any further time that would have been previously allowed to us, we have 79 signatures of people who are willing to show up and speak tonight, or at least stand in our favor. Finally, I have demographics of the over 600 clients we served in 2015 in our one office, our very cramped office. It's over 600 clients that came to Starkville. Of those clients, over 250 reside within Ottawaha County, and the majority of which, if you can see in this very small perspective, are right here in Starkville. Thank you. 40 clients from Ward 1, 17 from Ward 2, 15 from Ward 3, 29 from Ward 4, 33 from Ward 5, 11 from Ward 6, and 13 from Ward 7. And my final point before I ask Ms. Brown to take the last 2 minutes. Mr. McBride's concern was our aftercare program. Our aftercare program made up less than 13% of the clients that we served. 50% of our clients are below the age of 22. 60% of those are high school and under. We are serving the very population that our opponents are opposed to because we are near a school. And I'd like to give Ms. Brown the last few statements, please, unless there are any questions.
Ms. Woods, before you sit down, do you want those materials to be a part of the record of this hearing? The materials you just referenced, the signature pages and your graphs?
We certainly can, yes, sir.
If you do, if you would present them to the city clerk, please, ma'am.
All right.
Jeff, 1 minute. Ms. Brown, you'll have 1 minute.
I think we can do it. I would like to say I disagree with Mr. McBride in several matters, but I would say this is a situation where 2 wrongs will make a right. The fact that this hasn't been able to be sold as a residence because of the storage lockers, what are we supposed to do? Just continue to be punished? And I can show you, if you'll show there, that's what the property looks like now. That's with it cleared, all the trees gone. That's how big it would be, and there would be residents on it. And that would really be, not as a threat, I mean, there'd be nothing else the Josies could do except possibly to come in and ask it to be rezoned to R5, R4, something like that, and then sell it to a developer and be able to do something with it. But as is, 2 wrongs in this situation do make a right, because we have a buffer zone across the street and directly across from it. Now we'll have a buffer between the dense residential area to the east and the industrial and more commercial area to the west. So we respectfully request the Board of Aldermen to please approve the zoning to B1, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Is there anyone other than the applicant that wishes to make any comments on this matter at this time? Anyone who has not previously spoken other than the applicant that wishes to make any comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is...
Please approach.
I just had a...
State your name again.
I'm Kim Stevens, and I've lived in Starkville 20-some years. My kids went through the public school system. And personally, as a parent, I would be really pleased to see a counseling center, a Christian counseling center, close to the school kids could walk to afterwards if they needed to. I mean, there's a mental health center across from it. There's nothing going to happen at that counseling center that the kids don't see that or more of in the high school. So I don't think that you're protecting the high school kids by not letting them have a counseling center close to it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else at this time wishing to speak?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Hold on, let me
Okay.
ask one more time.
My name's Adam Turner, 7. I had a female friend that was schizophrenic. We only have one mental health facility that's on Jackson Street. If a schizophrenic do not take 800 milligrams to control those voices, it can be real dangerous. Those voices take over if they do not take the medication. We, the citizens, we don't know. We have the Church of Christ, Church of God in Christ on Village Street. And we don't understand why it seems like that. You're trying to block the church out by all around. People wouldn't be able to find the church on Village Street. But mental health is needed. Anyone that has the time to deal with people that have problems, it does no good to try to think about what happened after things happen.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter? Anyone else that wishes to speak? Anyone else that wishes to speak? Seeing no one, Alderman Wynn.
Thank you, Mayor. Pastor Buckner, will you please come forward, please? Pastor, I certainly don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm fine.
But you are the pastor of New Horizons Church, which is located over there on east of Louisville Street on Lynn Lane. And you're in close proximity to this home. Do you as a pastor have any concerns for your church?
I'm really excited about the possibility of Christian Changes Counseling being there.
Thank you. So that answer is yes.
An answer is yes.
Thank you so much. Mayor, I yield the floor. Thank you, Pastor Buckner.
All right, rather than hearing concluding comments from the members of the board, we're just going to move this right on into discussion. At this time, a motion on the appeal is in
I'd like to
order.
recognize, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Vaughn.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor. Move approval of the appeal of the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission from RZ 1604 to rezone 300 Yellow Jacket Drive from R1 to B1.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to grant the appeal requested by Wendy Woods of Christian Changes for and overturning the denial of the rezoning request to RZ 1604 by the Planning and Zoning Commission to rezone one parcel at 300 Yellow Jacket Drive from R1 single family to B1 buffer as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that the motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Vaughn, you wish to speak on the merits? Alderman Vaughn, you wish to speak on the merits?
Mr. Mayor, I think this will continue to keep Ms. Betty Christian values alive, a biblical value alive, and we just continue to, if we pass this motion tonight, and I think it'll be the best interest of the city of Starkville, and I think it would be a good thing for Starkville being so close to this area.
City Attorney is asked to be recognized.
Alderman Vaughn, is your motion based on the finding of fact that the neighborhood has changed to a sufficient degree to justify the proposed rezoning and that there's a public need for the proposed rezoning?
Yes, sir.
All right, further discussion. Alderman Carver.
I think
Mayor,
I got Carver, then Walker, and then Maynard, you'll be next.
I think that Attorney Brown did a wonderful job presenting the picture of the change of character in the neighborhood. And it's probably evident for the fact that it was the way it was, and now it's changed so much to what it is now. That house stands alone. I think in this town we often talk about quality of life issues. That can be through the aesthetics and also from the standpoint of what this counseling service provides for the citizens of Starkville. But from tonight, what we're discussing is the aesthetics and this. And I will say publicly that it's very, very commendable for Ms. Woods to put, I think it's 11 or 12 restrictions on herself that she didn't have to. Anybody and everybody that's from town or out of town that visits, that this house has been a subject of much discussion just because it is so pretty, it is so beautiful, and it's something that can be protected. If this was in a historic preservation type district, we would do everything that we could do to protect this house. This is, in one way or another, way to protect that inadvertently. I think Ms. Woods, and it 100 years from now, and it not only rests with her and her business and her rights as a potential landowner, but it also transfers to the next individual. She's placed so many restrictions on herself that this will be something the future generations can view. This will not just go on with our generations, but the next and the next. So for that, I'll be supporting this. I also have to say to Ms. Stevens, that's probably one of the best things I've thought about. High school students that maybe need this counseling that are already getting it, and we've got each and every one of us up here has constituents to have it, and maybe not everybody has a ride, and especially high school students, they probably don't have a ride. Not all of them, and maybe in these kind of situations in life, and if this is something they can walk a few hundred yards and get the counseling they need and change their life around, I think it's a great idea, so I'm all for this. Thank you.
All right, Alderman Walker has yielded to Alderman Maynard. Alderman Maynard, you have the floor.
I would just like for the city attorney to opine on what could potentially go there if this counseling center was not successful in being there.
Alderman Maynard, anything that would be... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, anything that would be allowed under B1 could go there. Now, they floated deed restrictions. Those deed restrictions would run with the land as long as the parties to that deed restriction didn't remove those deed restrictions, which could be done voluntarily between those parties, or a subsequent party could petition a court of competent jurisdiction for an equitable or argument that they were somehow obsolete. You see that sometimes with old restrictions in neighborhoods dating back to the 30s. So those are two ways to remove the restrictions, but they would run with the land so long as they're not removed.
But the owner of the property could remove the restriction?
The grantee and grantor could agree to remove their restrictions.
So then, at that point, anything B1 would be allowed there?
That's correct.
I yield there.
Further discussion. Alderman Walker, do you wish to be recognized?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say again, I think the work that you do is very commendable. The concern that I have here is what Alderman Maynard alluded to. The land use zoning classification of B1 buffer zone is really a misnomer. It does in no way provide a buffer. That is not what that zoning classification does. Essentially, it is a catch-all zoning classification. It allows a wide range the only use that allows more is probably C2, in the sense that it allows a much larger range of commercial uses. I do believe that the long-term health of this neighborhood, I don't believe that B1 is the best solution. I'm okay with the land use that you're proposing there, but I don't believe that B1 is the right solution. I don't believe it offers very much protection, quite frankly, to the neighborhood. My concern there is the argument of change in condition. And I don't think anybody would disagree that since the Josie House was built, there has been change all over the neighborhood in terms of Starkville. However, when I look at that metric, the change in the neighborhood to me is geared towards zoning rechanges and what is actually being built. If you look at the properties to the west that were referenced in the package, the Shaggy Hound, the other things, all of those properties were already zoned C2. So the things that you see built there aren't a change in character in the neighborhood. They're just new development that would be allowed by that zoning classification. The zonings rechanges that have occurred in the neighborhood have all gone the opposite direction. They have all gone from either commercial to a residential in nature, and that's what's the Bent Brook neighborhood just to the south. The neighborhoods further to the south on Lynn Lane have all gone from commercial to residential. The city attorney accurately pointed out that yes, you have placed a significant amount of restrictions on here, but those restrictions aren't binding. I would like to think that your business is going to be there for 50 years, but the problem is that the zoning runs with the property and not the owner ultimately. I agree with what Judge Mills said. I think it would be an absolute tragedy to lose the Josie House as it currently stands. I believe that is true. It is a fine piece of architecture that does very well. However, the change to B1, in my opinion, does nothing to save that house long term. Those are the issues that I believe are real. I would like to see, are there other zoning classifications that would be more apt? And when you look around, we talk a lot about spot zoning. And we talk about spot zoning as being when something is put in place and there's nothing else like that zoning around. What makes B1 not spot zoning in this case is that there is B1 directly across the street to the north. It is a metal storage unit that without question has impacted the property values of this property. Nobody would, I think you'd be foolish to deny that. That is absolutely the case. However, it was probably a bad decision when that decision was made to rezone that property to the north to B1. If that property wasn't there, there's not another B1 property in the vicinity. I don't believe that this zoning classification ultimately is the right decision for the larger neighborhood in place. And again, I commend you for the work that you do and hope that you are successful in continuing to do that work. But I will not be supporting this rezoning to B1 for those very reasons. It is just too many different options that can occur under that zoning classification that ultimately runs with the owner of the property despite deed restrictions or deed limitations. Mayor, I yield.
Further discussion?
Mayor,
Annie?
may I be recognized, please?
You may.
Thank you. Ms. Woods, will you please come to the front if you don't mind? I am perhaps the only one at the table that has a background in elementary education and English education and has worked in a public school setting and understand the value and the need for the work that you do. I commend you and I say thank you, and I hope that this measure passes for you tonight because our children in the schools so need so much help, and I know that you see many of them. I say thank you for the work that you do. May God bless you. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Little.
Mr. Brown, could you come forward? Can you speak to the, I guess, the covenants that you placed on the deed
Well,
going forward as to the city attorney spoke to that?
I would say
Can-
99% of my practice is real estate. So when we put restrictive covenants like that to run with the land, they can be changed. I agree, it would take all four Josies and Miss Woods to be able to change the covenants now. But we could perhaps add a further restriction saying that these covenants cannot be changed without approval of the Board of Aldermen. We'll do whatever we need to do. Also, if Miss Woods sold the property, then they cannot be changed without going to court. Then they run with the land and they cannot be changed without going to court, even if those are permitted uses.
So-
Then you'd have to go to court to do that. I've tried to do this on Louisville Street. There's a church that backs up to the city. It's on Louisville Street. There's a church way back in there. They wanted to sell the two parcels in front so they could repair their roof and make the church viable, and because it's falling apart. They started to list them and found out the restrictive covenant said that property can only be used by a church. We called the person that put that on there. They refused to lift them, and that's it. They'd have to go to court and have a big battle because the person that put those restrictions is alive, and you donate it as long as it's be used for a church. We even offered to let him have the money from the sale. Wouldn't do it. So I don't know what would happen if we went to court, but it's my belief that those restrictions, we could add further to that. Also, we did look into R5. The problem, so to speak, is the conditional use is only allowed in 3 different zones, okay? Commercial, R5, or this buffer. That's the only 3 places you can do this conditional use. Had to pick one. Commercial we didn't want. R5 allows mobile homes. I'll be honest with you, as if we had to fall back on something, R5 is almost identical to what she wants, and it would have the same restrictions, voluntary. But R5 really predicts a much denser use of the property. But our problem is this conditional use is only allowed in 3 zoning areas. So R5 we would not be opposed to. There are also some conditional uses, as you said, the buffer zone, that the Board of Aldermen could restrict, that are conditional uses. I think those are, for instance, this buffer could be used for, here we are, fraternity, sorority houses, transportation or car sales, warehouses, wholesale services, and mini storages. So the Board of Aldermen, I believe, could put restrictions on that. Or you could present that to my client and we could consult with that. And that we're fine with those sorority houses, fraternity houses, ladies of the evening. I mean, I'm trying to think what else would be in there. Vehicle sales, warehouses, wholesales, and mini storage units to really get kind of most of the commercial uses off of the property.
So how did you arrive? Did you just put the permitted uses?
Right, the
Several?
conditional, the permitted uses, we pretty much took all the commercial ones out and put that in the deed restrictions. I've got a list here, and then conditional uses, we'd be happy to put up with too, would be no fraternity or sorority houses, no transportation or vehicle sales services, and no warehouses or wholesale services.
I didn't see eating and drinking establishments.
No, I don't know if we ever discussed that.
That was a permitted, I just saw it on the list, I was curious.
Eating or drinking? Not a problem. I think the only thing that we wanted to allow perhaps in the future, you can imagine 20 years from now, I don't know how Wendy is, but eventually she'll retire. So if she wanted to, perhaps a bed and breakfast. I mean, we're trying to think of a use that this might fit this beautiful building in that 5 acres.
So do I understand you correctly, say if she wants to retire in 20 years and has no one to take over, assume the business,
Right.
she sells it to someone, they could go to court and change.
I don't know if
challenge.
they could attempt to. They could attempt to, but again, they'd have an uphill battle. They'd have to fight the Josies if they're still above ground, and then make up. I don't know off the top of my head the case law on that, but they'd have to show it fits the zoning, that there's been a tremendous. It makes me think of what the gambling places Trump did on Atlantic Boulevard, where it wound up with just the one little house in the middle, and it was all casinos, and they want to knock that down. So it'd be something like that this has changed in 20, 30 years where there's nothing but a school around it or something. But they could go to court, that is true. But in my legal opinion, be an uphill battle. But we could place further restrictions if the alderman, if that would make this pass and sugar in the medicine go down, perhaps.
Further discussion?
I'd like to say that the first time I passed that home several years ago, and I saw it, I was like, oh, what a nice setting sitting back over there. And I looked to my left, I'm like, oh, how'd that happen? Clearly the evolution of change in that area. I've had several calls asking me to support this tonight, and as I said, I want to sit there and listen to the facts and see what everyone has to say and make a decision here at the table. But I think going forward that I could be supportive of this with the additional, be as liberal as you could be, as anything that's permitted down there that's listed, the commercial possibility, and subject, any changes subject to the board of alderman approval.
I don't know. I'd have to defer to Chris on that.
No, we can't.
I've never seen
They're
that.
two different things. I mean, you've got city government over here, you've got private deed.
Okay.
It's, I
So
don't
we
think there's
couldn't
any
add that.
crossover there. No.
Okay. But we could add all the.
She could load up on as many restrictions as she wanted to between the private parties and the deed.
And we're willing to do that.
Would you?
I don't know, Chris, if we could put something there, you know, that and this, and neither party shall be able to make any changes to this for 20 years. That the parties agree that they cannot.
Until they change their mind. And say,
That's
"No,
right,
we're in
yeah, you know,
agreement."
but, you know,
Strike
we'll
that
put
provision.
whatever Band-Aids we can put on this, I mean.
You can memorialize the document in the minutes.
Right.
It would not be binding, but in the event somebody in the future was trying to do something else, you would have that document there where it could be researched.
There was a public hearing, yeah, a public hearing to address
Along with
this.
all the other materials for the public hearing.
Alderman Little still has the
I
floor.
know you.
Alderman Walker.
I think the other option, if I could throw this out, would be to look at doing a PUD. Community development folks, our PUD requirements require drawing. I know there's some stipulation for,
Essentially, a PUD is what you get. Whatever is approved on the site plan is what is approved. So if there is,
does have some language for
but
other.
But there is one issue.
Please
that
read
Alan
that.
just pointed out,
Please read that issue for me.
is that institutional healthcare facilities is not allowed. in
Not
the
allowed,
PUD. As permitted or conditional.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. And before we get started, City Attorney, you did confirm this will require a supermajority, and that is 5 votes, correct?
Correct.
All right, so please answer yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Nay.
Alderman Maynard.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against due to lack of a supermajority, this matter fails. The next matter on the agenda has actually been made moot because Alderman Walker made that motion to calendar the second public hearing when he was discussing the first public hearing. So the next matter on the agenda is first item under engineering, request for authorization to declare.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve the declaration of the OSE Colway 300 plotter, serial number 330403010, as surplus with authorization to advertise on Gov Deals and remove from the city's inventory with proceeds from the sale to be used to purchase another machine as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none, please respond by saying yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the
Mayor.
agenda,
Due to the fact that we have to roll call vote and we've only gone through 16 and we got 21 more items, I'd like to suggest a consent agenda.
Objection.
alright. The next matter on the agenda, Alderman Carver, you still have the floor if you have.
Just pretty much say move on everything else.
All right, do you want me to just start with you making a motion? on
Yeah,
each
say
of the
move.
items?
Item number 2, say move.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the low quote from Welding Works in the amount of $9,200 to install guardrails around the open drainage channel on Edgewood Drive to be paid from Ward 5 discretionary funds as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion, saying none? All the way, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. Next, Alderman
So
Carver
moved.
has made a motion to approve of the low quote from Warren Incorporated in the amount of $7,500 for a 9-foot dump body for a pickup truck for the street department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Mr. Kemp, is this replacing an existing vehicle, or what's the purpose of this?
Vice Mayor, this is a bed to put on the back of the truck that the board recently approved to replace a truck that had failed. So it is simply, we just bought a cab and chassis truck, so this would be the dump body to go on the back of it.
Very good, thank you,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this motion passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of the low quote, or I'm sorry, Alderman Carver has made a motion to approve of the low quote from Stidham
Second.
Construction in the amount of $23,900 for the Timber Cove Drainage Improvement Project between Briarwick and Wendover Street to be paved from Ward 4 discretionary funds as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion? Yes, sir. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
And did I hear a second from
Second.
Alderman Maynard? Alderman Maynard, did you second?
Yes, sir.
All right, Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Roll call.
Alderman
aye.
Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, motion passes. And next, Alderman Carver has made a motion to approve of the advertisement for bids for the Lafayette-Lampkin Street intersection ADA improvement project at the Lampkin Street restriping project as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Next, Alderman Carver has made a motion to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Utilities Department as of June 1st, 2016, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
Mayor, I've got to roll off this call.
Mr.
I'll
Queen's
be
not here.
available if I need it for executive session.
All right, thank you, Alderman Maynard.
I should record voting nay on that.
All right, without objection, the vice mayor accidentally voted yea. I'm going to allow the clerk to change that to a nay. Is there any objection? Any objection? All right, seeing none, the record will be changed where the vice mayor voted nay on that motion rather than yea. With that change, could the city clerk report the vote?
It's 5-2.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this motion passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the advertisement to fill the vacant position of Operator 1 in the Drinking Water Division as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion, seeing none, and City Attorney, now that Alderman Maynard is not on the phone, I'm no longer obligated to have roll call votes, correct? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next, Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the advertisement to fill the vacant position of Superintendent in the Water Division, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the advertisement to fill the vacant position of payroll collector and the clerk in the utilities department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the advertisement to fill the vacant position of foreman in the water sewer division as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the temporary pay increase per personnel policy for utilities department employee Michael Reese, Calvin Young, and Nathan Hinton, who are assigned to temporary positions of foreman and equipment operator in the utilities department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter, Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the hire of temporary full-time employee, fill-in secretary in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department during medical leave of existing employee. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to approve of transfer of 2013 Ford Explorer, VIN number 1FM5K8AR1DGCO6898 from Starkville Police Inventory to add the Mayor's Office Inventory and transfer from Mayor's Office Inventory a 2004 Crown Victoria, VIN number 2FAFP71W44X169601 to the Starkville Police Department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
That's gonna be your ride?
That's gonna be it.
Good deal.
Any discussion? Alderman Burke.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'm about to say that I think that this will be a good change for you, get you, I think this into an expedition type vehicle.
It'll be a nice vehicle.
Yeah, it'll be very appropriate for the office, so it'll be a lot
I'm very
better.
appreciative of
Yes,
the
sir.
police department for recommending the change. I'll be very appreciative of y'all for approving the change.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. And now Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize the police chief and the mayor to determine and accept the lowest and best quote not to exceed $6,500 from either Williams Transfer and Storage or McConnell Brothers Mayflower after final quotes are received to move the Starkville Police Department June 29th through July 1 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion?
Mr.
Any-
Mayor.
Alderman Burke.
Yes, sir. Mr. Police Chief, this is to move you from June 29th through July 1st. Is this space going to be ready that the board's been approved for you to move on those dates?
I don't know. That's only a couple weeks away, so.
It's
Just
gonna be
want to ask
close.
the question.
It's gonna be close, but you're not really moving much stuff in here. A lot of what's gonna be up there is gonna be the rental cubicles, and you'll have some desks and stuff.
Just asking, just for information purposes. That's fine.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Question. Which line item is this coming from?
What's that?
Which line item is this from? Is it coming out of general or?
We're gonna come out of our budget.
Coming out of PD?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to accept the bid from Jacket Mini Storage for one storage building at a total cost of $429.45 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to approve of the reliability standards memo of understanding between the city of Starkville and Tennessee Valley Authority as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to authorize purchase of mobile 311 workflow software associated with service from Facility Dude at an annual fee of $15,470 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to approve of Terry Kemp traveling to Biloxi, Mississippi during the MML conference to meet with consultants and contractors with advanced travel. I'm missing a page. You got it?
Of approximately 250.
Of approximately $250. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to approve of Starkville Utilities inserting the drinking water annual customer conference report in the June utility bills as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Alderman Carver's made a motion to approve of Terry Kemp and Russell Hamilton traveling to Atlanta, Georgia, June 15, 2016, to meet with SEDC, our CIS provider, at no cost to the city as presented. Alderman
Second.
Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. At this time, a motion to go into closed session. Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to go into closed session to determine whether there's a need for an executive session. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
It's actually Alderman Little.
Alderman Little has made that motion. Alderman Little, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the matter? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. I'll ask the public to vacate the premises so the board can begin closed session deliberation.